If we can have your attention for a moment, please. You can take out your cell phone, handheld personal devices. They have to be powered off. They can't be on vibrate, silent, or any mode other than powered off. If you are speaking this evening, we please ask that you sign in. We also ask that you direct all questions, comments, and concerns to this board. If you need to discuss any matters with one another, please take it in the hallway. It interferes with our opportunity to hear those that are speaking. We have a very lengthy agenda and a lot of information to go over this evening. For right now, there won't be a time limit, but if you were asked to start closing up or closing your statement quickly, we please ask that you respond accordingly. If that doesn't work, we will implement a time limit. And as always, we're going to be courteous to one another. We'll start this evening's meeting with first a motion to open. Is there a motion, please?
I make a motion that we open this meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation on October 24th, 2016.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Welcome to the October 24th, 2016 meeting of the Architectural Board of Review and Historic Preservation. My name is Curtis Highsmith, and I am your chair. I'd like to introduce our panel for this evening. We have Brian Brady, Christina Redding, Jeff Broadleib, as well as Susan Stevenson. We'd like to welcome our historic consultant, Zach Studenroth, our legal counsel, Bo Robinson, Antoinette, and Charlie. As always, we thank you and welcome you for being here. We're going to start this evening's meeting with signs. And first application, please.
First application is Cleaners.
Is the applicant present? Cleaners?
Okay. How's it look?
Okay, is it just Cleaners? Is there no other name of the company? There's no just Cleaners?
Evidently.
Purposes of the application is it's a sign above the doorway of the location,
It's on Hill Street.
Hill Street. It just says Cleaners. I don't see any specifics in terms of color. I don't see a sample. I don't know if it's backlit. Don't know what the material is being used. So as of right now, I consider the application incomplete until we are able to get more information from the applicant. So the motion to adjourn until
I
next
make
week.
a motion that we adjourn the sign application for Cleaners on Hill Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next application, please.
Next application is A+ Painting and Stucco.
Is the applicant present? This is going to expedite things. This is a contractor sign, black and white, A+, painting and stucco, telephone number and website. Any questions about the application? Any issues? Christine?
No, I think we had it last week.
Susan? Any questions?
We've seen it on the truck.
Any public comment on the application? Has been signed off by code enforcement, black and white sign. I see no issues with any details. Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the contract to sign for A+ Painting and Stucco.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
Next application is Job's Lane Gastro Pub.
Please step forward. Your name for the record, please.
Dennis Cregan.
Okay. This is a new store that's opening. It's your sign is what's being represented here in the
Yes, sir.
photo.
There's two
What's the
signs.
material?
It's Comicel.
Okay. Is it backlit in any way or any form?
It's lit on the face from the building. The existing signs we're just replacing exactly with the new name and different color.
Okay. The goose down lantern. So is that current? Is that present, or you're proposing that?
Yes.
Yes, they're present. Yeah, so we're not changing any of that.
Not
Just
changing.
the
And
sign.
it's also presenting the awning as well, correct?
Correct, yes.
The awning is going to just have Job's Lane. Is there no number, no name of the company, no website, no telephone number?
Correct, just Job's
Just the
Lane.
awning. Is it retractable, or is it just a...
It's retractable.
Any questions?
I think it's great.
Fine. No, it's a smart sign.
Any public comment on the application? Only one question. It was not signed off by code enforcement. I'm sorry, the second version is. Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the sign on Windmill Lane for Job's Lane Gastro Pub.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wasn't
There
signed
are
off.
two of them here.
Yeah,
Yeah, one is for the awning, and one is for the sign. So we
There are
just
also
approve the sign.
two streets, so there's two sides.
And also for the awning. Is there a motion to approve the awning?
I make a motion that we approve the awning sign for Job's Lane Gastro Pub.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you all.
Next application, please.
Next application is Tim Kadish, builder.
Michelle Caddish.
Yeah, I'm sorry, your name for the record?
Michelle Caddish?
All right. Is this a contractor sign?
Yes.
All right, name of the building, so it's name of the company, it says Custom Builders, Job Management, and telephone number. A little busy in terms of what you're proposing, what you're putting. Custom buildings, I don't believe is necessary. It's too billboardish, but
Or job management's not that.
judgment.
take
So it's
job management
either
out.
or seems to be sufficient. Which one would you
I
like
think
to?
job management should come out.
Job management.
Job management. So you're saying you're okay with an approval removal of the job management, correct?
Yes.
Board members, do you have any issue with that?
I think the ink is superfluous as well, but it's not a big deal. But I think the sign will look cleaner without the ink and the job management.
Without what ink? I'm sorry.
I-N-C-K,
Okay,
I-N-C.
incorporated, okay. Well, it's the name of the company, so it's
Well, maybe I should get on one line then.
That's fine, it's not a big deal for me.
Okay, let it go.
take that out. So that look less busy for you. Is it good?
Wonderful.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the sign for Tim Kadish Builder, Inc., removing job management from the sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Next application, please.
Next application is Amador Home Improvement.
Your name for the record, please.
Pascal Amador, and I'm the president owner of the company.
Okay. You're presenting a contractor sign, correct?
Yes.
So name of your company, say Home Improvement Corporation and telephone number,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
Is this the correct color and rendering? As
Yes.
well as font that you're proposing?
Yes, sir.
This will be on a contract, on a parcel that you'll be doing work or doing improvements on?
Yes.
So it's
I will-
temporary?
No, it's going to be all the time. I wanted to keep it all the time, the signs on the property of the resident.
Until it's finished?
Yes,
So
correct.
it's temporary?
Yes.
Very good. Any questions? Any issues?
Nope, it's fine.
Okay. Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve Amador Home Improvement Corporation, the contractor sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Next application, please.
Next application is La Tiendita Latina.
Hi.
My name is Marta Blanco. She's the store owner,
Okay.
and I represent Cornell University Corporate Extension, and she's the store owner.
Okay. You're proposing a decal on the door itself?
A door and a banner on the windows.
The banner is a bunch of fruit.
Yes, because we are Cornell University Corporate Extension is partnering with Healthy Corner Stores. It's a grant from the Eat Smart New York program, so that we help the store promote healthy beverages like water, milk, fruits and vegetables, and increase consumption. So it's part of a whole Eat Smart New York promotion, and so she was chosen as one of the corner stores that we're going to be working with.
Okay.
So we would provide a banner with, fruits and vegetables and a logo.
Is that a part of the corporate identity? You have the vegetables underneath. You have the little logo on the door.
Yeah, we have a lot of, but with the corner stores, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
So could you just say, so you're part of a government?
Yes, I'm a
initiative?
nutritionist from Cornell University Corporate
Okay, thank
Extension,
you.
yes, with the Eat Smart
Do
New
you
York
you
program.
have a picture or something that's a little more in focus of the logo itself? I see it's fruit. I just don't see if
Yeah,
there's a letter and you write.
It's in there.
There's a bigger picture in the file.
Yeah, the one in the one in the door is like a little
was.
shopping cart.
The bigger one.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's
We saw it.
oh, okay.
Okay. Sorry.
It's all right.
There you
Oh, okay.
go.
You're looking at the door.
Yes.
That one has the Cornell University logo and then has the Eat Smart New York logo.
I mean, the nature of what you're doing, I think it's reasonable and definitely I appreciate the fact that you were awardee of a grant or of the program itself, getting funding. I don't have any issue with it per se. I'm a little questioning with regards to the vegetables underneath, but I think it's pretty in keeping with the nature of the business that you're operating, and I don't have any further concerns. Brian?
I'm fine with it.
Christine?
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine, I'm aware of the actual initiative.
Okay. Any public comment on either the doorway or the window? Okay, first motion for the doorway.
I
Motion to
make a
approve.
motion that we approve the decal on the doorway for La Tiendita Latina.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And the window.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the banner along the bottom of the window for La Tiendita Latina.
Second?
Good job. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Next application, please.
Next application is J. McLaughlin. Three. Okay.
Hello.
Aye. You can push the microphone.
Hi, my name is Steven from Larson Paul Architects.
Okay.
And Jay McLaughlin is, we're the design architects for
Okay.
Jay McLaughlin.
All right, so we'll start first with the actual sign itself. It's going to be on the facade. This is the color
Yes.
sampling,
Correct.
the font that you're proposing.
The name of the font?
Well, the font,
Oh.
the design of the.
Yes,
actual
that is correct. Yep.
Will it be backlit in any form at all?
Yep.
Are the letters raised or are they?
They're extruded aluminum, and they're going to have, they're going to be pin mounted on the ceiling, on the facade. Yeah.
Okay. Are you proposing any lanterns, any boost down?
No, nothing other than what's already existing there.
Very good. In terms of the sign itself on the building, you have any questions, Brian? Christine?
Nope.
Susan?
No, it's smart.
Any questions or comments on the actual sign on the facade? Motion to approve the sign on the facade.
I make a motion that we approve the sign for J. McLaughlin.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And these are the window decals.
Correct.
So you're proposing on each one of the windows, name of the company.
Yes.
A little redundant. You think you won't know where you're located?
Well, it's nothing different from what's already on the store.
Have multiple.
Yeah, on the larger windows,
Okay.
there's the actual J. McLaughlin logo, and then on the smaller arched windows, there's just a monogram, which is J MCL, which is kind of like the short version of J. McLaughlin. Yeah.
Any questions? Any issues? Christine?
Nope, fine.
Any public comment on the decals? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the window signs. Are they window?
Window decal.
The window signs for J. McLaughlin.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And at last, the awnings. The awnings are retractable, correct?
Yes.
You have a sample of, is this the sample of your representation of
Yes,
the sampling?
it is.
So this is the color itself?
Yes, correct.
Will there be any lettering, any name, any nothing? No phone number, no name of company?
Just the fabric.
Brian, do you have any comments or questions about the awning?
No, I think we're good.
Christine?
Nope.
Susan?
That's it.
Fine.
Any public comment on the awning? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the awnings for J. McLaughlin.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Next and final sign application for the evening.
Michael Gentili, architect.
Good evening, Michael Gentili, architect.
This is for a contractor sign?
Yes,
What is the color of the sign itself?
white,
It's white with black lettering?
yes.
It's just not necessarily...
Yeah, they shaded it gray so it would stand out from the white paper, but it's going to be white with black letters. So it's white PVC sign with black lettering.
This is a contractor sign going on one of your projects? Okay. You have your logo, you have design, build, you have to name your company, Architects PC, telephone number, and a email address. Is that correct? A little busy?
The name of the company is Michael C. Gentili, Architect PC,
That it?
and then the phone number and the website.
Well, we have design and you have build. Okay, then you have your telephone number and you have your website.
Right.
You have any issues with the busyness and the details?
No.
You have any
Black and
concerns?
white.
Black and white?
Yeah.
You have any concerns? Say yes or no?
No.
No?
I think it would look cleaner without the design and the build. But
It's that thing, like the round sticking up, I'm not crazy about it.
I don't mind the logo itself. I think it could be maybe reduced a little bit. I just have a concern with the design and the build. I think it's just too much. Looks too billboardish. I don't know if you can reduce the actual logo a little bit. So just to more scale.
I think you improved it, didn't you?
Sorry,
That looks better.
like that?
Yes.
Okay. What about
But
the?
I think that's big. I don't know.
it's only 16 by 16.
All right.
Good.
Yeah.
So, if you would just remove the design and the build, I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
Just gonna say. Any public comment on the application? The motion would be to approve this, the sign with the omission of the design and build.
What is it, design and... Okay. I make a motion that we approve I don't have him on my head, so...
Michael Gentile.
We approve the architect sign for Michael Gentile with the exclusion of the two words that flank the logo, which is design and build.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. First application, historic.
First application, Thomas and Meredith Joyce.
I'm here for the applicant, but I think I'm just here to listen to the expert that you guys hired.
I believe that we were able to finally get the third-party historic consultant to come in, Mr. Snodgrass. See you present, please. Step forward. So you were empowered to come and prepare a report on the structure itself. We have not seen that report as of yet, but I'm assuming that you have it present with you?
Correct.
Okay.
I actually have the report here. It's actually comprised of two things, and maybe I should give a little background.
Okay. If you can send that in to be stamped in. You understand it will be a part of the file at some point.
Yes.
You don't have a copy of that?
No, I am sending you also an electronic copy of both of these. And
Okay.
so, I mean, I have other
John, we'll
copies,
make
but-
sure that you have a copy present for yourself. We don't unfortunately have a copy for you today, this evening.
Sorry about that.
This would also mean giving the opportunity for the file to also be reviewed and...
Sure. Let me just explain what I've just handed to you. This actually is comprised of two parts. And the point, first of all, let me step back. My background is in historic architecture and architectural conservation. I have degrees at both the bachelor's level and master's level in historic preservation. It also included the review with a structural preservation engineer. And so this is something that we do together quite often. The name of that company is Old Structures Engineering. They're based out of Manhattan. And the primary, Marie Annis, also has her background in architectural conservation through the Columbia program and master's degree. So what this involved was basically trying to give an objective review of conditions and structural integrity at the site and all the various buildings that are there. And what it required was a site review at the beginning of this month, in which we spent the day climbing on the building, underneath, around, top to bottom, inside out. And essentially, several things come out of this. And really, the purpose of these reports are normally to try to address what are the major areas of concern, as opposed to minor things that need to be repaired. However, what's included in the report I submitted is trying to look at anything that is observed at the building that needs to be done. But not to take time tonight of going over the report itself in great detail, because it would take too long. I'm just going to try to highlight what we saw as the more important issues to be addressed. The first is, and I need to state this for the record, there's clearly historic fabric in all these structures, some to greater and lesser degrees, but there is historic fabric. Then it becomes one of what's their physical integrity, what are the problems that might be addressed. So for 765, which is clearly the most intact historic structure there, the front store of the conglomeration, if you will, the areas of concern are those that aren't seen readily apparently unless you go down into the cellar. Right now in the cellar, the brick knee walls and side foundation actually has been slightly compromised previously It's not clear why, whether or not this was just soil erosion from water infiltration over time or if there was actually impact, but there was cracking and structural movement just to the knee walls inside the foundation. This actually was addressed previously by the owner by installing structural steel supports and beams to address any potential movement. So the building is stable. And so the condition that exists, it was addressed, and actually allows it, therefore, to be repaired in place. So it is actually a repairable condition, even though it's quite unsightly. It's very much a manageable repair, as any of these things would be. The house does not need to be lifted to do so. The second area of concern is ongoing water infiltration to the foundation, which is simply because there are no gutters on the building. So what ends up happening is all the roof runoff that comes off of the building goes directly to the soil most adjacent to the foundation, and it's allowed to percolate into the structure. The simplest and most easy way to get this done is to have gutters installed when the roof is replaced. That brings up the next issue, which is the roofing. The roofing on all four buildings, both 765 and 759, all appear to be somewhat in the same vicinity. Certainly all of 765 appears to be contiguous. 759 is likely of the same vintage. They're getting close to the end of their life cycle. It's very likely that there would be some additional time metered out of those roofing systems. 5 to 10 years, say, would be expected because they're not showing heavy signs of wear, although they're moving on. At the time that those are replaced, if gutter systems are installed, it will go a long way to stabilize the problems that are ongoing just because of simple non-mitigation of water that's going in. So it's a very simple corrective procedure. And then the last real major concern of the construction at 765 in the front is the front porch. As you look at the building and going through, I should note that I did have the opportunity to review the building files from the village. Some very interesting things come out of it. One of the statements was that a car drove through the front. It looks more like that there was impact damage, although I would find it hard to find evidence of a car actually driving substantially in because there's no damage to the sidewalls at the interior. There's no damage to the floor that would be indicative of a major collision that came in. I'm assuming there was impact damage because you can see that the front eastern window, storefront window, actually has been replicated to look like the western window, which is an original. So there's slight changes in the details of the moldings, but they did clearly try to replicate it in good faith as a replicate match. Some of the porch roof structure appears to be original, but has been strengthened through modern joist ties. There are clearly modern posts out there, and there's deterioration of the roof in that area. It's the one area where the roof is bad and that the roof decking has deteriorated due to neglect over time. Those are relatively easy fixes. The porch, which likely would have been a wood deck originally for the store, is now basically a concrete pad with some settlement on the west side. Again, these are all manageable repairs, but clearly impact damage must have happened because of the replacement to both the window and the shingles on the east side of the building. Those are all new in that one area of the corner. But again, I did not see evidence of substantial damage that would have been indicative, say, a vehicle actually coming through the window wall itself. So those are the four main areas of concern that we saw in the building. When you go into the structure, the floors, walls, and ceilings all appear to be stable. There's no bounce to the floor systems either on the first floor or the second floor. There's really no apparent cracking anywhere in the interior wood sections. There's no separation of the beadboard that's on the inside. Typically, if you were having structural damage, you would get either deflection of the span that's in there, because it's a fairly sizable span of the open first floor room, or you would find noticeable bouncing at the second floor level even when you walk around. And the engineer actually did a bounce test and did other things to check it and see. So it seems to be fairly sound. It has good bones, basically what's going on with the building. Now, the back sections of the building, which is basically an out storage barn in the rear, which is probably contemporary with the front building, used originally as two separate structures, one for storage, utilitarian, later had the connecting link installed, which is a much later addition and cruder materials. The open foundation and crawl space of those two structures is typical for storage buildings that would have been unheated and used for just holdings of supplies or items of merchandise. So using them continually for a similar purpose would not really require much other than shoring them up. They're on locust posts originally, which still, as we see all the time, locust posts have an amazing ability to survive and perform well on the East Coast. However, in this case, as is so typical, the barn likely settled over time. There are cinder blocks, there are screw jacks and things like that. again, it's repairable. However, it becomes a question of use. If the use is to continue with the utilitarian storage usage, then it really doesn't require much work in terms of structural stability. It's one, if it goes to occupancy, then obviously you're talking about an entirely different retrofit of the structure to an occupiable space that would meet code and such. But as dirty and sort of ugly as they might look to close inspection or at first glance, they're actually much more stable than not. The biggest threat to the back buildings is also the same roof condition. And right now there's squirrels infesting the back barn. So there's a pronounced smell of droppings in the structure, and there's moisture infiltration, again, because water is allowed to go underneath the crawl space and percolates up through the floorboards. But otherwise, the structure is basically plumb and sound. There are areas of the facades that are deteriorated. Again, these are all repairable because it's a wood facade that can easily be taken off and pieced in as necessary. Switching over to 759, the garage structure, in the building files, it was clear that substantial work was done in the mid-'80s. And it's actually noted as the walls and the roof. And when you inspect the building, you can see that the interior framing system is basically all of modern nominal lumber, except for the front facade. And I'm emphasizing that because the front facade still retains its framing, exterior cladding, and fenestration, including the cornice, at the street. So that is a survivor. The windows may have been replicated at the same time that the repair was made to the storefront window on the east side, and the doors appear to have been dressed up and substantially rebuilt, but retaining some original lumber. So what it comes down to is the form of the building is still the same. From a structural standpoint, though, which was a major part of what we were trying to do, it's actually quite sound. There are a few areas of water infiltration at the roof and coming through some trim, and so there's isolated areas of rot which are repairable, but the structure itself is quite sound. It's on an earlier concrete slab. It's entirely plumb. The cladding appears to be mostly in place, and except for a few anomalies. There is some rot to the windows because they're not terribly high quality to begin with, but again, it's repairable. So of these buildings, no, they're not falling down. 765 actually is in quite good shape, except for the repairs that I mentioned that need to be done. And ironically, 759, which I think had the biggest question for people of is it salvageable at all, is in very good structural shape. So that's a summary. As I said, I'll be happy to answer questions at another time because I know people need to review the information I presented. I'll be sending electronic copies as well for that you have additional copies to review.
Okay. I'm sure there'll be a series of questions both by the applicant as well as the board and our own historic consultant. The only question I have out of the two buildings, specifically the one that's labeled garage storage, you said that the only front portion
comments which apply to all of the proposed demolitions in the village, and there's 3 or 4 of them on the agenda, and I'm not exactly sure where to present that in the course of the discussion this evening.
Okay, you can make just so the application as well as the history of information that we're receiving per application.
Right.
If you have specific questions or things that we've been asked to do in the past, I would just make that as part of their.
I'm not suggesting that you be an enforcement body. I'm suggesting that it's relevant information in any application for the demolition forever of a historic building that you know two things. You know that, first of all, that what is going to go in its place is appropriate, And the second thing is you should know that whoever's going to do it really has the capability and interest in doing it. And the only way you can do that if it's the owner of the property.
Thank you.
And I know, we had a discussion, Nelson Pope and Voorhees, in one of their discussions of procedures here in the village. I was able to attend one of the meetings, and they suggested that it was really unusual for a village with this historic integrity not to have those two requirements mandatory. It is not in our village, but it is as is best practices throughout the state of New York. And all I'm suggesting is it seems we have a lot of demolition requests coming up. We're knocking down historic buildings without knowing what's going in there. And I would suggest that maybe the level of due diligence, the level of inquiry that we made in 40 Meadow Lane, which maybe became a disaster, but for other reasons, that standard be maintained by this board in considering all these demolitions.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. This has become a myth about this. It's very important. This has become and I'm glad to have the opportunity to address it. This has become an absolute myth about this, what this board did at the 40 Meadow Lane application. The only elevations that were shown to this board, were the elevations that were constructed and are nearing construction. So I've personally been accused of some sort of bait and switch. That never happened, ever. You can go to the Architectural Review Board files and you will see that the only elevations that were presented to this board were the elevations that are under construction now. They were litigated and upheld. And so this idea that there was some sort of shell game that went on is just absurd. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I'll respond.
The tip for that is this. Yeah, well, it is, and I can understand this is going to go someplace it doesn't have to. Right now, we have information that was given to us recently. We'd like to take this opportunity to review it, give some time to review it, also give the applicant the opportunity to review it. Also gives you the opportunity to come and look at the building department to review the file as well. Anything further from council?
Just to confirm that Mr. Snodgrass would be available on our next meeting, November 14th, to respond to any further questions or comments that are made.
Sir,
is that good with you?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you so much. In light of that, motion to adjourn the application so that the applicant have the opportunity to review it. Unless you'd like to make a recommendation to adjourn.
That's on you. My position has been that the application should be closed. So.
Absolutely. Motion to adjourn.
Want to adjourn?
Motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn the application of Thomas and Meredith Joyce on Hill Street.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next application is closed for a written decision by council.
In the file, there is a decision approving the application as submitted. A affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the application.
Motion to approve written decision by council for 35 Herrick Road.
I make a motion that we approve the written decision by council for 35 Herrick Road for Sonny Kelsey.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is all.
Next application, please. Application is closed for a written decision by council.
Likewise, this and the Beck and Alex applications, we have two decisions in writing for them approving the applications as submitted. Affirmative votes on the applications will be to approve them.
Motion to approve written decision by council for 11 Allen Court.
I make a motion that we approve the written decision by our council.
I'm sorry, 17 Allen Court.
For 17 Allen Court, BBSY North Main.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to approve written decision by council for 22 Gin Lane.
I make a motion that we approve the written decision by council for 22 Gin Lane, Beck and Alex, 22 LLC.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
Next application is the Town of Southampton, Village of Southampton for 51 Pond Lane.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Robert Strata, and I'm here for 51 Pond Lane, the reconstruction of the Pierce Concert House.
There's some information that was not in the file added to the application to make it complete. I believe it had to do with the set of plans.
And Curtis, also there's also a survey that's coming.
It's not here yet.
It's not here yet, but it's in the works. Yeah.
So
you do have a site plan, and we were asked to put some additional dimensions on the site plan at the last meeting, which we've done.
Okay. We'll discuss that, but the application is not complete right now, so we'll discuss that once we have the site plan information.
I understand.
So the plans that you supplied were dated October 6th?
Correct.
Would you like to go over that?
Yes, I would. You'll see that the plans include only the reconstruction of the original Pierce Concert House, the historic timber frame structure. Okay. It's a scant 600 square foot structure. It's 1.5 stories, and it is clearly defined by the materials that were deconstructed from the site in August of 2014 that told us exactly what the building was. Now, nothing's changed, and we're really only submitting the application for the reconstruction of the historic house, nothing else. We understand that we're also going to be asking for 2 variances in order to put the house, the structure, in the exact location where it was originally built. Now, keep in mind, this is the early to mid-1800s. It certainly predates zoning, and the reality is that it's a historic building, and we're looking to keep it on the National Register. So it should go back to the location where it was precisely situated. It does not conform to current zoning. So we're looking to go before the ZBA on the 17th of November to address variances for, I believe it's 116 11.1, which has to do with the setback from the front of the property. The existing structure was built 3 feet 3 inches closer to the road than it would to conform to current zoning. So we're going to seek relief for that. And the second thing we're seeking relief for is 116, I think it's 11.0, which has to do with the gross floor area because it's such a small building. But this indeed was the primary structure. This was the house.
None of that gets grandfathered, huh?
We're just trying to dot the I's and cross the T's. You know, I have my own opinion about what you just said, and I would agree with you. Bo doesn't look like he would agree with that.
It sort of morphed into, I mean, this isn't a response. It just sort of morphed into a bigger house over the years, and when it was demolished, it wasn't 600 feet. It was a larger one.
Much larger.
So if you want to go back to the original, I think the minimum for the gross floor area is 800 square feet.
Yes, it is.
So it's actually below the minimum. That's what the issue is. But the structure that was demolished conformed to the minimum.
Yes, it did. And it was always the primary residence. It was not a secondary residence or secondary structure.
If it had been an accessory structure or something like that, or detached, it might have worked differently. But
and I won't revisit why it was originally built before there was a fireplace and who could occupy it. But
no, it's good to just make sure you got, since you're going to apply for grants and all that, to make sure everything was done correctly.
Exactly. But our focus is, because I know others have raised the issue of the future of this site. We're here to just talk about what we rescued in 2014, the home of a very important Southampton son, and to reconstruct it. So that's it.
Zach, in order for, I just want to make sure that all processes are followed up accurately. Because the parcel right now is just in a historic district, not necessarily contributing as of yet, would it have to be designated because it would not be a contributing structure unless we identify it as a person of importance. It would be placard, not necessarily the structure be designated. I'm just looking forward in terms of what makes it historic, and if it's not identified as it no longer being the actual structure because it's all new, it would have to be a person of historical.
Curtis, it's not all new. The frame is original.
Okay.
The flooring is original. The joists are original. I mean, it shouldn't have been demolished in the first place.
Well, we know that.
Yeah.
So I think there are two issues. It's counterintuitive, but usually districts begin as National Register districts, recognized as such, and then the locality, municipality, village, then basically approves that on a local level and forms a board such as this, adopts that district as a local designation. So this, in a sense, is sort of turning that around. Your board you have the ability to designate this reconstructed historic dwelling as a local landmark.
Correct.
Designating it on the National Register is a higher lift, you might say. And there's no way of telling whether our friends in Albany would.
But our recommendation and also execution would go a long ways.
Yeah.
My challenge, and just hear me where I'm going with this, was a certificate of appropriateness was granted, and basically that certificate of appropriateness is basically saying it no longer rises to the level of historical significance, and therefore we've kind of countered the actual building itself being a contributing structure once that was signed. Or at least.
But you're referring to the building as it stood prior to its
Correct.
gradual deconstruction.
Correct.
And I think it could be argued then that the integrity of the building as it appeared from the street was lacking, and it was no longer visibly the historic structure that it ultimately became upon the removal of the later additions.
I'm going to say this. If you're here in an open session, it just makes a sense if that's another process you have to undergo. I would hate for you to go down the line, try attempting to get some of the historic either credits or grants that you're looking for and not rise to that level. While we're in an open session, it may, or at least in a public hearing, it may behoove us following that all the way through.
Well,
so you don't have that delay.
An application for National Register listing is rather lengthy, and
Very
given the
lengthy.
circumstances associated with this. And in truth, I think the real support for a project of this sort will in fact be on the local level. So I would suggest that if both village and town were to designate, well, the town has no power to designate it in the village. So if the village decided to, once reconstruction took place and it was shown that the building is substantially composed of the historical elements that have been discovered, et cetera, if it found local designation, I think that would enable it to receive the sort of support they're looking for. And I think National Register is a separate issue that might be opening up other avenues of support, but I don't think they're essential.
But to Zach's point, the standards that we'll follow to reconstruct the building are the Secretary of the Interior standards.
Okay.
So where we don't have complete materials, or where we have materials that I've shown you in photographs of burned posts and materials that you wouldn't reuse, but you would copy exactly, we will follow the Secretary of the Interior standards so that it conforms to a proper historic preservation.
As long as that process is well documented,
Well
I think
documented,
that's
right.
essential to this.
Right. Right. Thank you very much.
Any public comments on the application? You have comments?
I do. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Alexandra Halsey Storch from Toomey Latham, 33 West 2nd Street, Riverhead, New York, 11901, for Jeffrey Lewis, who resides at 57 Pond Lane, which is adjacent to 51 to the west. We would respectfully submit that this application is premature and would ask that a certificate of appropriateness not be issued at this stage. As Mr. Strada discussed, the applicant has to go back to the ZBA for various approvals. And at this time, it's unforeseen what the ZBA would decide to do. Particularly relevant to this board is whether the zoning board will grant the gross floor area relief. And if it doesn't, the exterior of the structure could be changed in some way, making it larger to comply with the village code requirements.
Just an FYI, I mean, I know you're representing the applicant. We don't have a complete application because we're still waiting on this site plan. So based on that, it would be adjourned anyway.
Okay.
So premature is correct in saying that the file's not complete. All the other matters will be discussed at a later date, and I'm sure the applicant's before the ZBA now. Chances are at that time, which is our next meeting, which is the 14th, some of that, I'm sorry, when is our next meeting?
14th. The 14th.
A lot of your concerns or issues, maybe even the application itself, will be resolved.
Okay, well, since I'm here now, if I could just finish, quickly, just to say that it's our understanding that this board doesn't generally entertain or like to entertain applications that have pending zoning board applications. So we would just respectfully submit that you take that into consideration when making your decision.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Anything other from the board? Because the application is not complete as of yet. We're still waiting on a site plan. The applicant, I'm sure, is preparing itself and is okay with requesting an adjournment until the next meeting, correct?
Not till the next meeting because the ZBA...
You have to come forward. You're not going to be able to get that on the...
Sure, sorry.
So is there a specific date you'd like to adjourn until?
Yes, until after the ZBA hearing on the 17th.
So you're proposing for the 17th is your meeting?
The 17th, yeah. It would be your meeting on the 28th of November.
Okay.
First meeting right after Thanksgiving.
We'll talk about that. Very good.
Okay. Thank you.
So the motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until November 28th.
I make a motion that we
Pending.
approve the Town of Southampton, Village of Southampton, Pond Lane, applicant's request to adjourn until November 28th.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Next application, please.
Next application, Hamptons HDS LLC. I need to recuse myself on this one.
Bear with us 1 second. We would put it in.
Why do you? Yeah. Yeah.
I saw it. Absolutely. Do you want this?
No.
Sure? Oh, yeah, okay.
Proceed.
Good evening, board members. Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinson Bruin, Southampton, New York, on behalf of the applicant, Hamptons HDA LLC. With us in the audience is August Dorenzo and James Dorenzo, the principals of the company. We also have Michael Mineta, our architect, who will make a presentation for you, Joe Lombardi of the Rayner Group, who is our site engineer, and Steve Narada of Aris Design. The property in question is 116 North Sea Road. It is on the corner of North Sea Road and Bowden Square. It's a 1-acre lot. In 2014, an updated certificate of occupancy, and the survey is right here. Existing conditions, it is improved with a dwelling. The certificate of occupancy that was issued to our client upon his purchase, the property is improved with a 2-story, 2-family dwelling, valid pre-existing non-conforming accessory barn with business retail use, and 2 accessory sheds, and approved parking on site for Schmidt's Market in accordance with planning board approval. I can just point that out. This portion right here, the shaded portion on the northerly part of the property, this is Schmidt's on North Sea Road, Bowden Square, the existing dwelling. We're here tonight for a preliminary discussion and to get this board's input on a preliminary basis. We've been to the planning board. In June, we had our pre-submission at the planning board. And the planning board issued a report and some design guidelines that we need to address. And one of the issues they asked us to look at specifically is regarding the historic significance of the existing structures on the site and determine whether they are contributing structures in the district. As you know, we are within the historic district. Since that
front along Bowden Square, all sides, details, so forth, that we've taken into account. So in doing this, in studying the building, we said, architecturally, planning, we can go over in detail, but the building itself, we said, architecturally, we want to fit in. We want to be an iconic piece of the architecture of Southampton. We looked at probably one of your best buildings within the town, Southampton Historical Museum, Rogers Museum. We looked at some of the elements that are going on here on two-story buildings, flat roofs, detail, octagonal additions, balustrades, and so forth. So how could we use that within our design and keep the existing architecture intact? With that said, this is the feeling, initial sketch of the feeling of the house, how it would be restored and how it would be added to. And you can just barely start to see the additions in the rear, which is, so from Bowden Square, it will feel very much in keeping with what it is today. And the house itself, or the new structure, will screen the parking areas in the rear. Front and rear elevations. Front elevations, you can see that the house is kept intact. Detail, the pergola on top, which is really the main architectural detail of the house, besides its double-hung windows and so forth. All chimneys, all kept intact. Addition to the left, rear. Addition to the right, rear drive-up window. Main entrance to the new structure is now coming off of North Sea Road. The front entrance will only be used as an emergency access from inside only.
So to be clear, the cars are going through a drive-in window and an ATM?
Yes. Would you like to go back to the site plan?
No, I just want to make sure that what I'm seeing is what I'm seeing.
Yes, there's an ATM lobby and a drive-up window and a drive-up ATM on the east side of the plan.
And is there an elevation that shows this from the perspective of driving down North Sea Road?
Yes.
Because you're saying this is facing the actual Bowden Square work.
This is elevations. I'll get to the we have renderings and sketches. They're in the back.
He's going to get to.
Okay. The rear of the building there is no rear of the building. We're looking at this as being a four-sided piece of architecture and not a blank slate in the rear of the building. So this is important to us, details, so forth and so on. When you talked about North Sea Road in the way of elevation, running out of space on this is what you'd see from North Sea Road. So basically the house is kept intact. In front of this is what's protruding in the rear is the entrance to the new proposed bank branch, and similar octagonal element that you see on the museum which was a sunroom on the museum, and with the balustrades and the details and the segmenting of the pilasters around that element. That sketch, I'm running out of space, that you just questioned was of what you would see from North Sea Road is here.
Thank you.
And you can see the house, the existing house in the background preserved, and the addition, the parking, the barn, and we have in that packet we have landscape plans, we have material boards at the end. We just realized that we'd be here an hour if we do everything in detail. So we really watered this down for the presentation. Any questions?
I'm going to reserve mine until I find out what we're looking at in terms of the original building, because that's going to.
There is a plan that is. I can pull one out.
As I was stating, it's going to guide my direction in terms of what you're proposing.
There's a plan that we did to show what the first floor plan could be. I know we're talking about an architectural review board from the exterior, but you can see the outline of the existing house here, and it goes to here to here. So this is the addition in this area. So right, slightly left, and behind. And there on the site plan, which was the first one we showed you, there are calculations that will tell you the amount of existing square footage and the amount of what was added. And all this is within the guidelines of the code, and they say zoning, and all the setbacks and so forth are meeting that, that all of that. So it's not we're not looking for any variances or so forth. It's purely ARB. By the way, all the lighting in the back, we have fixture types that will show you in keeping with the architecture. Anything that's in the front of the building will be kept low, ground lighting. You can see that in the photographs. So it's really a kind of a all-encompassing plan architecturally.
Aren't there?
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
To me, it also fronts on North Sea. It's on a corner.
Yes.
So that.
Well, actually not. The Bowden Square recharges the corner. It's behind the
It's
corner.
highly visible from North Sea.
Yes, highly visible.
Yes. Okay, just checking.
Jeff, any comments?
Not at the moment. I'd like to come back after you have a chance, Curtis.
Christine?
Not at the moment. I'm waiting to hear from Zach.
Okay. It's very important that we, I kind of question, I challenge the notion that this is not a contributing structure in the historic district from visual, and if it's not, it should be. I would want Zach to come back and give much more of a presentation with regards to its history before we start peeling back or adding anything to this. And if it is, then the level of addition that you do to it would have to adhere to what has been drafted within our especially specifically in our historic guidelines with regards to downsizing, creating a recessive addition rather than or more recessive addition rather than what you're doing there. It seems like you're putting a lot around the overall structure, and it may change the architecture to a degree where I think now you've lost the entire intent and design and features of the original building itself. We'll go over the use because the use is irrelevant, and I want to make sure this board understands and recognizes, because I don't want to go too far over the use and bank and whether it should or should not. It's irrelevant. We're just talking strictly and specifically to the architecture and making sure that we're not going to lose another relic in the village of Southampton, either incidentally or accidentally.
If I can just add to that.
Sure.
Even with that in play, because we were not informed that might be a situation, we felt that the architecture that we've created was not to just add square footage around the building, but was to add and embellish the architecture of the building in a neoclassical way, which is in keeping with the town of Southampton. With that said, nothing was not looked at to be part and parcel of a whole, and to become really a gateway, an iconic building to Southampton, and not be a modernist structure or something that was totally dismantled. Now, the existing house itself has been changed over the years, so it would be very interesting to know what the historical nature of the existing house was.
You're basing that on, you have information in terms of our history on any additions, any alterations, any...
Well, we can see in the construction that a lot of alterations were done and made to the structure. We've looked into... Augie, you know
the age of the building.
Mr. Dorenzo is the owner.
You would have to come forward because we cannot hear you.
Well, the history, the age of the building.
You have to move forward closer, sir.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the age of the building, but
closer.
Closer. Mic right there.
I can't give you the answer to that, but the building itself. We're trying to celebrate the building itself as far as keeping the home structure as part of the development. We're not looking at coming up with a design that's not in keeping.
You're celebrating the structure by putting drive-through tellers in?
No, that's not the structure. The drive-through is not. We're adding to the structure.
I understand.
Okay, I didn't answer your question. You asked me.
I just want to know the age of. If you don't know, we'll find out.
I think just there. I mean, celebrating. I think what Mr. Dorenzo said, celebrating the structure is that whether it's a drive-through or it's a covered canopy where horse-drawn carriages were brought in. There are canopies, there are balustrades that were done. I think even that's why we looked at the Historical Museum for that. there are usages where covered canopies are used, whether obviously not for ATMs and situations like that, but we used the architecture that was used to celebrate that type of use, a covered use that was outside. Now, ATMs, drive-ups obviously did not exist. The octagonal nature of the sunroom. Not a sunroom, but a lobby. So we used the vocabulary of architecture in a different way to celebrate this building. This building is not, its architecture is significant for the town of Southampton, but it's not of the level of the historical museum. We're trying to bring it up even to that level. And I think that's something we're looking to you to help us to discuss. And
because he's turning bright red and I don't want him to explode. So allow him to do it. I know.
Give him an assignment.
We're giving him a little assignment now and to go.
His blood pressure.
Yes, before he bursts. I know. I understand.
all
So
good.
what we'll do now, if you're finished with your presentation now, if there's anything further you want to add.
No, this is initial presentation. It was to get your feedback, so we did not go forward and then give you a set of construction documents and tell us that we'd like to see change.
Understood.
So
Thank you.
we're looking for that feedback and we welcome it.
Thank you.
Well, then if I may, let me build on what Curtis was saying, that the changes that you wish to make seem, while the position in the context of preserving the original house, to a great extent you're adding and changing the very nature of that house in the context of that neighborhood. And that corner, Bowdoin Square, is one of the last vestiges of the town at an earlier age. So the additions that you're adding to it, I think, change the entire complexity of that particular corner. I think it's going to be awfully challenging to do what you say you're doing, which is to preserve the integrity of a historic house. We can parse words, as was said before, as to what deems historic, but there's a sensory level of what historic is. And as you presented it to me, the historic nature is lost in what you're proposing. Zach, but beyond that, I'll wait to hear from Zach, but I think it's a challenging road to hoe.
Anything else?
No. Any public comment on the application? Please step forward.
My name is John Bennett, and I own the building at 212 Windmill Lane, Southampton, right across the street, pretty much in sight. I have no objection to the size of the building, nor its use. The site plan, that'll be up to the planning board, but it certainly appears the ingress and egress off of North Sea Road is appropriate. I do have some comments about the architecture, however. This is a historic area, and it's a gateway into the village, so you want to be careful. Again, I don't have any objection to the size, but this is historic. It's a gateway into the village. And North Sea Road in particular is challenged, so this is a piece that's remained the same and hasn't become. It's not like at the northern end where you've got a bit of a hodgepodge down there. And the existing commercial buildings in this area, Bowdoin Square and the area generally, I mean, they have been a little bit morphed in some instances, but they have in terms of use, but there really hasn't been much change in the architecture. Not that this means that this can't go forward. But Tate's, B&B, my office, South Bay Abstract, Public House, English Country Antiques, you haven't seen any changes that have been made. Have been very sympathetic. So, for example, the proposed glass addition on the front, I think just looks like a suburban office building atrium. And in terms of compatibility, it just doesn't look like the sunroom to a residential structure, which is presumably what they're trying to mimic here. The B&B did a very nice addition to that. Was the old Durian Baird building, where the entrance, it's a rectangular. And if you look at the Mercator Cooper House, similar. The sunroom is rectangular. This is octagonal, and it's true. The Rogers House does have like an interrupted octagonal southerly entrance, and then off to the side there's a sunroom. But there's as much wood as glass in those two treatments. For example, I think on both of them, certainly on the entrance, the mullions are very heavy, and the panes of glass are interrupted by, some people might call them columns, but I think they're pilasters because they blend into the actual building. So you see as much wood as glass. This looks more like a suburban Long Island attempt, which is certainly what we don't want. Again, I don't have any problem with the use or the size of the property, but I think something has to be. The pencils have more than the pencils have to be sharpened. You have to take a look at, the actual treatments here. I would certainly hope that they would be willing to plate a cedar shingle roof on the property. BNB has it. I have it. My roof is both cedar shingle and standing seam copper. Very expensive, but shows my belief in the area, and certainly that was something that could be done. It doesn't have, one of the things that becomes a cost factor on these cedar shingle roofs as much as anything is we have a lot of different valleys and everything. It's pretty much straight runs on that building, so I would hope they would consider that. That picket fence, been there for a long time, part of the fabric. Obviously you have to have ingress and egress on North Sea Road, but hopefully they'd be able to preserve as much of that as possible because that's the real part of the sense of place there. Again, just a minor note, that trellis effect over the south entranceway just seems busy and unnecessary and superfluous. On the south entrance to this building, there's a trellis that comes out. It looks like it's tried to attempt like a barber over the trellis. It just seems unnecessary.
That would be the drive-through.
No, there's on the southerly entrance. On the southerly entrance. So again, I'm happy that someone is willing to put money into the house and money into the area and redevelop it. But I think you want to make sure that since the use is going to be changed, the attempt is as much as possible to mimic a true residential design. And Mr. Broadley is right. It's going to be a challenge, but I think it's doable.
Well, and don't we first have to find out what era this? I think it's
it's either. I hate to say it, but it's either on the list or it isn't.
No, but it's a simpler house than the ones with the sunroom. This house is a more pedestrian in a certain way, vernacular.
Yes, it is.
And so, until we discover when and how it was, who was there, I think someone important lived there actually. We would have to make a determination after that to what's appropriate.
Yeah. Again, I would leave my comments to what they.
Right. I'm waiting for Zach.
Any other public comment?
All right.
Zach.
Good job.
Well,
Exhale. Now we're just going to get the report.
You had said that the use is not necessarily material, but clearly to convert a two-story farmhouse on the outskirts of the village into a bank has everything to do with the projected use of this building. This is an old farmhouse that could be legal offices. It could serve commercial or professional purposes of another type. But to transform it into a bank and presumably to make it be a big bank, not a little one, there's all kinds of banks, in my experience. But this conversion requires the removal of the internal second floor, so the existing two-story house is now being gutted from the floor to the attic for some reason. I'm not quite sure what that's all about. And the footprint goes from an existing 1,200 and change with an addition of 2,200 more. So we're nearly tripling the footprint of this house. To me, it's not about bank. To me, this is a unconscionable expansion of this house, which our code addresses from time to time when people want to enlarge their homes and they want to make them 3 times the size of what they already are, and that's often, we often take a dim view of that. I'm also worried about paving the entire site. All that's left is about 3 or 4 feet around the edge for a little bit of grass and some bushes to grow. The entire thing is paved. This, I think the word suburban was used. This, to me, is a suburban transformation of this farmhouse on the outskirts of the village. I don't think it's...
Let's find out what it is first. A lot of that maybe...
I understand, but whether the house was built in the 18th century or the 19th century or the early 20th century, if it's contributing, it doesn't really matter. That's a detail. I'm just looking at the vision.
I understand.
The vision of this property is out of keeping for where it is and what it is. As it's presented here, perhaps it could be scaled back.
Well, we have teeth in the historic district.
Yes,
we have even more teeth if it's contributing.
Correct.
So that's the reason why it's important to know.
Right. That's just I haven't seen this yet, so.
Okay.
Anything further from the public? Anything further from the applicant?
I just want to remind the board that we are in the office district zone. The village board has recently, if you haven't reviewed it, you should, the North Sea Road study. It's something that our clients have looked at with much interest. This is office district. If you look at the table use regulations, and if this board is going to try to help promote with the rest of the village the reuse of buildings of a certain fabric or otherwise, they need to look at what those uses are. And right now, when you look at what could be the highest and best use of this property, which is what my client is, one of his goals here, and what he can do. It's amazing that his first proposal here was just not to demolish it and come in with a new building, which is what you see directly across the street, and on the west side of the road, directly opposite this, and which is where the Gold Coast Bank is. Right now, it was doctor's offices, that brick building. That's essentially, that's directly across the street. So when we start looking at the fabric of what North Sea Road is, and Schmidt's being right next door, we have some elements that we need to deal with. And the North Sea Road study was one that was trying to provide incentives where there might be other uses that we could put to. But right now, you're limited to 3 or 4 office uses to try to make something productive out of these properties. And that's sort of why the village board started that study along North Sea Road, because that area has stagnated. There hasn't been uses. There hasn't been any conversions, and it was a way to provide incentives for landowners to do what you want to do and do it in a design. Nonetheless, we hope you can review this, get us your input. We're at an early stage. Like I said, the planning board has looked at the site plan. They've given us a number of comments, not dissimilar to what we've heard tonight as far as the site is concerned. There's some elements that we need to address, and certainly they asked us to approach your board to get input, at least on the historic aspect and the design. So as soon as you can provide that to us, that would be very helpful.
Very good.
Thank you.
In past times, I recall, not that we have much input, but we sat in joint conversation with the post office. Maybe this
Not
is
the post office, because the post office.
Well, we did.
Yeah.
We had conversation, and we were basically
didn't get very far with the design or the.
Well, it did. It used to be. It came in as an aluminum building originally, if you recall. So there was some. The original building was an aluminum, almost hangar style building, if I recall the original design, and then we had them put at least some type of fabric to the building itself. Not a lot, but
the meeting I was
basically
at.
told we had to do what we had to do. But in the midst, the reason why I brought that up is that we had joining conversations with joint boards to discuss this in detail. This may be a situation where it behooves us to at least have a joint conversation, whether it be in a work session or just to have dialogue, because this is an important. And from what you're stating right now, it sounds like it may be something that this will be one of many to come. So start at least a process now as we move on. In doing so, we'll look at that, and we're going to have Zach take a look at and do a report, have something to present at our next meeting. You're asking us to adjourn so we can prepare all this information, correct? Correct. All right. Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until our next meeting.
I make a motion that we accept the applicant's Hamptons HDS LLC on North Sea Road request to adjourn to our next meeting.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Sorry, he's out.
Just for the record, it's HDA. The
HDA?
agenda is
Oh, there's a typo.
HDA.
Thank you.
Hamptons with an S.
Oh, it said HDS and it's HDA? Oh, I'll correct that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The ones who's that's our job. So I don't know. It's not necessary.
Next application, please.
Next application is Domino LLC, Fairley Road.
Evening for the applicant, Gilbert G. Flanagan, 21 South Main Street, Southampton. This is an application for the demolition of the property at 6 Fairley Road at the end of South Main Street. And I would start off by pointing out the fact that this is not a contributing structure within the historic district. Part of my application package was the inventory of the relevant section of the village, which I obtained from the village's records. There were several houses on Fairley Road which are listed as contributing. This one is not. By way of background, the house was originally built in the mid-1960s and was added onto and altered at a number of different occasions since then, including in 1967, 1982, and 1991. And I have some copies of the village's reference card, which I'll offer up for the record, which substantiate that history. As I'm sure you're all familiar, this property is located on a dead-end street which services a total of possibly 9, but really 7 houses. It's a private road, so it's not generally visible to the general public. It's also important to note that only a couple of years ago, in a very similar application, you granted permission to demolish a 1970s house that was located 2 lots to the south of this, and I refer to the application of Lynn Manger, and I don't know that I submitted this before, but I'll give you copies of that decision for the record. I think the case is relatively similar in that the ages of the houses is fairly similar. They were not of any particular architectural or historical significance in terms of their design and so forth. I believe you should also have in the file a letter from the Manger family indicating support of the application. I also understand from talking to Bill Manger, who I believe wrote the letter, that he had spoken with another member of the Fairley community, Pamela Michalchek, who lives immediately south of this, and she also had no problem with the application. In fact, Mr. Manger said they would welcome the fact to have this building removed so that something nice could take its place. I don't know how much more I really have to say about this. My application hopefully detailed a lot of the specifics so that I wouldn't have to take up too much of the board's time. The intention is to construct a traditional shingle-style house, although we have not designed that because, not knowing whether or not you'd allow demolition, it seemed a little premature to go to the expense of doing that, but that I understand is my client's intention. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you. Zach, is just for point of reference, not contributing?
Not contributing.
Which I will add because I know that there will be discussion as to what will be there if this is demolished. We do take in consideration what will replace a contributing historic structure, which we look at in specifically, especially when we're looking at areas, and most of those demos are done due to hardship because of cost, not just because it's the amount of additions or alterations over the years have now created a streetscape or a vista that no longer contributes or no longer allows that structure to contribute, and therefore it no longer is a contributing structure. Whereas there is no historical significance, whereas there's no contributing feature on this, and that's what's been stated on this particular application. It's not really at this time that interest that this board would look at in the application. It's not a requirement of what would be replacing it. It would still have to come before this board. Of course. It would still have to be reviewed in an application in an open forum, and it would still have to comply with all of the measures and requirements that we are governed under. So as it relates to this application, it's not contributing, doesn't require us to look at it. I don't know why you're here as a demo if it's a non-contributing structure, other than you need the certificate of appropriateness, and therefore that's what we will discuss. Zach, you don't feel you need to do any type of report? You don't need to do any type of evaluation?
Not at all. But I think it is important to bear in mind that there is a row of contributing houses along there, and therefore whatever is proposed should respect that context, and I presume it probably will, in one shape or another. That isn't to say you're looking for a replica of a historic house, but something that respects that immediate environment of contributing buildings.
Are they all related in the same period, or is it?
A similar period. They tend to date, I think, from the 1890s, 1900, around that period.
That's one of the reasons my client bought on that particular property is that neighborhood itself, so whatever that's worth.
Is there any public comment on the application? Any comments, Brian?
No, I agree with actually the Manger family that it should be torn down and something beautiful should be put on that street with the contributing houses.
Christine?
Yes, I agree.
No problem.
Right down
Same here.
something lovely.
There's no public comment. There's no opposition of the board. It is in a historic district and therefore requires written decision by council. So at our next meeting, our council will have that prepared. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
We'll close the application for written decision by council. Motion to close?
Okay, I make a motion that we close the application for Domino LLC on Fairley Road for written decision by our council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Next application, please.
Next application is J. McLaughlin, entry doors.
Okay. So basically, I'm Stephen from Larson Paul Architects, and our proposal is to take two existing storefront doors and merging them into one single entrance, because currently the two exterior doors are going into two separate spaces. So the two spaces that J. McLaughlin currently is leasing in that building are right next to each other, which is in space 1 and 2. So we thought that we took the space actually right next to. Let me give a little background about about J. McLaughlin occupancy in that building. So there's a separate women's store and there's a separate men's store, and the women's store had occupied the corner since 2005, and there was a separate men's store that was further down in the same building, but in a different space. And then earlier this summer, the space that was right next to currently where the women's store is, had opened up, and so we saw that as an opportunity for the men's store to move into that space. And with the men's store moving into that space, we thought that it would also give another opportunity to merge the two stores together. I'd like to distribute some material. This is actually from the town of Southampton Historical Archives of the original kind of real estate package that the developer had used to attract different tenants to the building. And if you look at page 4, you can see the floor plan, and it shows spaces 1, 2, 3, and 4 as a single. Spaces 1, 2, 3, and 4 are being occupied by one anchor tenant. So currently, J. McLaughlin occupies space 1 and 2. So we thought that through the renovation of merging spaces 1 and 2, that we would have the two separate doors merge into a single entrance.
You want to just go over the doors that are being altered?
Do you want me to
let's just go right to the doors.
Okay.
Doorways are being altered.
Okay, do you have the drawings with you?
Sorry?
Do you have the drawings that came?
We have them, and I'm going to suggest if you come before us ever again, you would give us a reduced set.
Sure. Okay. I have.
Right now, there's a wall there. Yeah. There's two doors, and they're just making it single.
Yeah.
You don't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
can improve?
One thing that did not show up on the elevations is that we are going to be painting the doors to match the colors of the awnings that we just that was in the signage
Painting
proposal.
the doors what color?
The same color as the awnings. That were,
Turquoise?
I'm sorry?
No.
Yes, they were turquoise.
Yes, they're turquoise.
But it's the same as the awning.
Yeah, the door color would match the awning color.
And the doors
new
are white now?
I'm sorry?
What color are the doors now?
The J. McLaughlin door right now is like a bright orange, and then the space that's right next to it is like a natural, like dark cherry stain. So
turquoise that's in his photos, what you're proposing?
no, it was in the
sign.
previous
sign
sign
package.
application. Well, if you look at the elevations, you can see the color.
There we go.
And the doors are in a recessed vestibule, so we thought that it's not going to be too...
This is what you want to color the door?
Correct.
I think it's a little busy, just me personally. If your awnings are turquoise at your style, I'm sure it's within keeping with probably the overall design and focal and mission of the company and corporation as a whole. I may have an issue with it just being too much.
Okay.
Brian?
I don't. It's recessed back in,
It's hard to see.
and I think it ties it all in
You're
together.
telling me this is going to be hard to see?
Well, it's orange now, and I walk past there every day, and I didn't
I didn't
remember.
approve the orange.
Well,
Orange, too.
you can barely see the orange.
It's the same color as your vest, probably. It's about that.
You have an issue?
No.
No, actually, I think the color combination would work well, and J. McLaughlin is
I guess I have no
top
style.
drawer on color combinations.
Since I didn't
Guess I have no
notice
style. I
that it
just-
was orange for the past 10 years.
I usually don't have an issue with color, but
It's pretty dark in there.
you say so.
It
Any
is.
public comment on the application? All right. Application is located in the historic district, therefore requires written decision by council. There's no opposition of the consensus of the board, so therefore the written decision will be there at our next meeting. Do you have any questions? No? Any further public comment? Anything further of the board? Motion to close for written decision by council.
I make a motion that we close the application of J. McLaughlin on George Lane for written decision by our council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next application, please.
Next application is Justine Corbin.
Hi, I'm Theo Liu. I'm the architect representing Justin Corbin, 224 Great Plain. I have the and also have additional information for...
I'm trying to hear what she's presenting. I can barely hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh,
really
I'm sorry.
If you can speak right into the microphone.
Yes, I will.
This application is an application for request to demo, certificate of appropriateness to demo, correct?
Correct.
All right. Have you verified or been able to validate whether this is a contributing structure?
It's not a contributing structure.
It's not. You know what the
No.
age of the structure is?
The age of structure is unclear. It's before 1926, but it's after 1894. And the original structure is only in this in the middle portion, about 25 feet by 25 feet. It is a gardener's quarter. And my client purchased it in 1975. And here is a picture of what the house looks like in 1975. And then from that time on, she did a lot of addition. On this side of the house, this portion is a one-story addition she did. This portion is a second-story addition over a garage. And this portion is a two-story addition. And if you look at the survey, I put it on as well on the survey. So this portion is a two-story addition. This portion is second-story addition, and this part is one-story addition. And the existing screened-in porch, and she converted it into a heated living space. And so basically, this building went through many changes. It's really doesn't really retain any historic value.
You haven't documented the dates of these additions?
Oh, this addition was done after 1975, but I don't have a specific date. The homeowners here, she can tell you if you really want to know. The existing portion of the house is about 25 feet by 25 feet. I was in the house as a block foundation, very short, and you can see a lot of water stain. And the framing members are very small. The inside of the house is also quite dilapidated. It's in my opinion that there's really no architectural value and historic value. It should be a non-contributing structure.
What do you think, Zach? Forthcoming view?
Well, I'm a little intrigued by the date of the original structure, and I mean, if that's known, if it's been absorbed into that much more construction, it probably lacks integrity. I'm wondering why this slipped through. Usually, I go out and do a quick pre-1926.
Would you do it outside as a outside of the historic district if dated? That would actually do the trigger, but because it's within.
Yeah, I think that's why the code was passed to canvass those, because those are buildings that, for whatever reason, were not included in the survey back in 1979, but now have potential interest. We don't often find much when we do this, but it's a good way to kind of double check that we're not overlooking something of value or interest. So I'm not familiar with this because this was never brought to my attention.
Okay. I feel comfortable having you come up and do a report. Okay. First time reviewing the application, first time coming before the board. Some questions with regards to date. I would feel more comfortable at least with a report and file, and that therefore becoming more complete.
Okay.
Brian, any comments?
No, I'd like to see what's going on too.
Jeff, any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to see Zach's report, because my take of the house when I look at it is it almost gives the appearance of being perhaps a superintendent's house that was maybe built when that was farmland. It's very close to the road. It's a beautiful property, so there's a lot of potential there. So this speaks to two things that have come up tonight. One, viewing it in the historical perspective, and then two, wondering, as Mr. Bachman had presented, what's going to be put in its place. That you don't have to address that now.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to be put into place, but if you look at the survey, you can see the addition is it's actually bigger than the original house.
Right.
So, and then if you look at the photograph, you can also see the look of it is completely different, and the inside and outside, really, I couldn't find anything that's striking.
Christine, comments?
No.
Any public comment on the application? So at this time, we're going to hold over the application so that our historic consultant can do a report, come back and give a recommendation and his summary of what he's found and what he's been able to uncover. Next meeting? 14th? Any comments? Any questions?
Okay. Well, yes, I thought it was built in 1930.
You would have to, if you want this to be a part of the record, you would have to come forward. Oh, I'm sorry now. I feel like
I have permits for everything, and I did something to the house about
your name, just for the record, ma'am.
Oh, Justine Corbin. And about every 4 years, when I collected more money, and it is pre-existing, non-conforming, and I have been before the board every time I wanted to do an addition. Every time. Dr. Corman. And I tried to have a better driveway, and I had a terrible time, so I gave up. And all I can say is I love the house, but I'm having trouble climbing the stairs. And it's time.
Understood. Just so that we have a complete record, if you can also, I don't know if you can exchange numbers so you can get information from her as well. Just so we have a complete file, it's just easier for us, just in case it's ever questioned. We did our due diligence. We checked to see the historical nature,
I thought I'd
lacking
given
of
it.
that.
They had the layout of the interior. I mean, it really was impossible.
Okay. You say you have permits, prior permits, you have
Everything.
So if we can exchange that information, if you can exchange number, we can have that as part of the overall file, and that way it's complete.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll find you.
Okay.
Any further public comment? Okay, so we're going to adjourn so that we'll have this information at the next meeting?
Thank
And you're okay for the adjournment, correct?
Thank
you. You're agreeing to it. All right, motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until
Make a
next meeting.
motion that we approve the applicant Jean Shafiroff. Justine Corbin, sorry.
Second? To our next meeting.
Our next meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next and final application in Historic District, please.
Jean Shafiroff. Do you have small plans? Maybe?
I hope so. Yes, he has something in hand. Are you okay? Like me.
Quite an evening.
It's like me a couple of weeks ago.
I have the five small guys.
Name for the record.
John Lapp, the architect.
Thank you.
I missed that.
Proceed.
Good evening. John Laddie, architect for the owner. I'm here before you tonight because we'd like to add an additional roof deck to my client's house. This house was approved by your board a year ago, I guess, and we're currently under construction. And we think a roof deck would be very much in keeping with the architecture, and it would help enhance its presence on the site, and we give my client an opportunity to look out at the water to the south. This is a picture of the house as it's being built, as per the drawings, front and back. And I provided you with a drawing of what the rail might or might not, what might look like, if it had my way.
I didn't see a set of site plan or survey in here.
I apologize. I didn't bring a survey because that survey hadn't changed. It was a roof deck, but I could adjourn to get it for you.
Just so the application is complete, and obviously you were looking at a number of things, one of which would be privacy issues, line of sight. What's the actual lot size?
Lot size about 2 acres.
2
More or
acres.
less,
So your closest neighbor would be approximately how far from the direct impact to the second-story deck?
Oh, I'd have to say the neighbor to the south might be maybe 150 feet.
And the screening around the parcel?
There's right now there's a series of privet hedges and arborvitae's up
I
on.
can't see them being that high with all
No. Well, it would. This is my neighbor. This is the neighbor's house who also has a roof deck adjacent to my client's house to the north. The deck would be about it's 586 feet, and it's about 19 feet deep, and at its deepest, 11 at its shallowest, and would go about 43 feet along the roof line. As you can see, it goes sunlight from ridge to ridge. This portion of it not being part of the roof deck, just wanted to keep the solar panels behind this. We just wanted to keep the aesthetic of the symmetry of the gables. So.
Where is it on here? Is it the white?
You see? No, it's the dark part.
This part?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. It's this.
Application is incomplete. I think we need to have a site plan. We need to have a survey file, just so we don't set any precedent moving forward. However, and it may just be being able to see what your distance and being able to determine what that distance is and projecting what the line of sight would be. I understand your neighbor may or may not have. However, I'm judging, and we're reviewing and looking at your application independently. Brian, any comments before? Jeff, any comments?
Yeah, I personally think that for the sake of a view of the ocean, you're sacrificing the attractiveness of what otherwise is a very attractive house. I think it changes the look, the scale of that house. You mentioned the neighbor who has a roof deck. That's diminutive by comparison to the house, and it fits that particular roof style. This looks, to me, as it's just been plunked on, and quite honestly, again, it wouldn't be anything but honest, I do think it takes away from the house. And the house across the street is a low-level, I think it's a 1.5-story house, or the white house across the street.
Right next to the south?
Across the street, to the east.
I think that's correct.
I'm sorry, to the west. To the west.
Yeah.
So, look, it's far away, but you will be looking down. But still, my primary concern as an aesthetic board is it just doesn't look as pretty. That's, again, a matter of opinion, but
I respect your opinion.
That's what we're here to do.
Susan?
I think it makes your house that you've built is quite a massive and grand house, but I find that the addition, at least in these renderings, makes it look busy and too much, really too much for me.
Well, the house is huge. This is just the icing on the cake.
Yes, it really is.
I can talk about, we could make it smaller. And
Tower Bridge.
I think you have such a nice roof line. It's really taking away from it. So size is, to me, is irrelevant.
This looks like Tower
John, I think they're having trouble reading this because it's in elevation.
Yes.
Is there a way to do a quick 3D?
I could bring you back in the model that I brought in originally and put the deck on top of it.
I think that would help.
I'm happy to take a look at it. I don't think that's going to change my opinion, but I am open-minded.
Okay.
Our concerns have to do with privacy.
Well, I would just, I think it's kind of in keeping with some of the neighbors in the area, I'll say, because I drove around and my client loved this Keene house. It's got a big roof deck on it.
It has a big roof deck, but the roof is smaller. So what you're proposing?
These two roof decks are definitely smaller than the one I'm proposing. Sure. There's a house over on Christopher Street. You got a smaller lot, smaller house, smaller roof deck, but nonetheless, there's a precedent there. There's one here over on Old Town, very pretty, but again,
they wouldn't let me access that one.
But there are roof decks from. I just briefly drove around the village, from kind of all over, even from all over time. If you look,
and that's a good point because some of them were allowed.
True.
but they were not supposed to be accessible. Supposed to be decorative.
What happens after the home goes up, we have no idea, unfortunately.
Very well.
Any public comments on the application?
Nothing.
Okay, nothing further of the board?
No.
All right, so a few items that you still, we need
Like to
have the
adjourn?
site plan. Anything you can bring back before this board to
Yes,
help
sir.
those that may have some issues?
Yes, I'll do that.
Visually, make it more conforming, or take in consideration some of the comments, and maybe do an alteration to the size or dimension of the deck. It's your discretion.
Thank you very much.
You're asking us to adjourn so you can prepare yourself?
Yes, please.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until our next meeting.
I make a motion that we approve Lou Shakarov's request from Wine Van Flynn to adjourn to our next meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And that concludes our historic applications for this evening. I think we need a quick 5 minutes.
Yeah, that would be
Maybe
great.
2.
Thank you.
All right. First application, non-historic. Applicant requests to adjourn until November 2016. Would that be the first meeting of November or second?
If there's no specificity, I would say the first meeting.
All right, so a motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until November 14th,
I
2016.
make a motion that we approve the applicant Beach Plum Meadows LLC to adjourn to our November meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
Next application, Ben Carr Building Corp.
Hello, Mark Cirillo from AutoGate Systems, representing Ben Carr at 127 West Prospect. So we're here revisiting again, and my objective is to appeal to this board to reconsider this application. There hadn't been any other design changes or anything else to address. That didn't seem to be the objection to the board. And it was more about the appropriateness of gates in the neighborhood. At the last meeting, as you know, I passed around a page with 12 addresses in the neighborhood, all within 2,500 linear feet on West Prospect, 3 on West Prospect, 4 on 2 on Pelham Street and 2 on Moses Lane, that all have automated driveway gates. And some of those are actually stockade fencing and manual driveway gates as well. So we're back here again. So the client, as you know, he agreed originally to demolish the newly built stone columns, and our proposed drawing that we submitted to you along with a photograph shows white columns, 16 inches square, 7 feet high, and an aluminum white picket fence driveway gate. The gates meet the current village code for fencing and for driveway gates. This is, as an aesthetic board, your comments were taken back to the owner originally from our first meeting. And the original design intent was more private and more formidable. I think the current design reflects everything that the village has ever asked for of us as a company in any other part of the village. Aside from that, this is the first time since our original application back in August that I have the opportunity to address the entire board, and for that I'm grateful. So if we can proceed from here.
Brian, you were not here at the last meeting. There was still some opposition of board members with regards to the appropriateness on the street of this particular driveway gate.
I didn't see the new design. It was the columns that I had an objection with.
It went from the stone columns,
right,
to
white.
White.
So now the issue is just whether a gate's appropriate.
Columns are fine. I think the columns, no one had any objection of the columns. I think that the consensus of the board at that time, or the appropriateness of the actual driveway gate itself on this particular street. So ask each individual board to see if each individual board member had or has any difference of their original opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's a much improved gate, but I still feel it's too grand. You know, the house is even too grand for the street.
Christine?
I don't have a problem with the gate.
Susan?
I do.
Yeah, my view is the same. And Mark, you're capable of building fine gates. In fact, I know there are some on the agenda for later on. So it's the charge of this board to look at each gate within the context of the property. And in this case, there are 14 houses between the main road, Main Street, and Halsey Street. There are another 6 beyond that. There's only one house, that has a gate, and that's 40. And it's a very diminutive picket fence gate. So a gate of any sort, particularly of this nature, seems to be inappropriate. And the other thing is, and only because you said it and it's on the record, when you reference Moses Lane by the car ride is a half a mile away, even the shortest distance. So it's not in the context of this street and nor the neighborhood as I see it.
I have not changed. I still believe that two things are keeping me from agreeing. One of which is the house itself, which you had a right, or the builder or the owner had a right to build. However, it gives a grand look. It's very close to the street. It's a very large home. It's within the boundaries of the village of Southampton, and as well as fits all of the building envelope and setback and pyramid law and so forth. The concern I have is now you add a driveway gate. It gives even more of a grand look. It makes it more like an estate section, and that was never the intent of that particular neighborhood or that community. So I have an issue with the driveway gate in its entirety. You have a right discretion to put the pillars up. I just would not be in favor of the driveway gate.
I'd like to pose a question to the board.
Sure.
The owner's intent was never to make this a compound. It's not that kind of his front yard is 40 feet deep. What if these were not automatic gates? This is a white picket fence. What if these were just gates? And just to correct the board, the 3 addresses on West Prospect are 40, 56, and 110. Each of those.
And only one of those has a driveway gate. The others have either fences in the front, but when you talk about driveway gates, there's only one, which is 40, and it has 2 very diminutive gates. The issue is not whether it's automatic or not. The issue is the gate.
Right. Well, once again, we have to justify to our customer, who's also a taxpayer, is he not entitled to put a fence or gates in the front of his property if they conform in design?
You're saying fence and gate, and you're using it interchangeably. You're putting up gates. I know you consider it to be a fence yard, gate. This is a gate, driveway gate. The purposes of putting up a driveway gate usually and typically is to have I won't call it a compound, but I will say that it has an appearance of an estate section. This is not the estate section. There's a purpose and plan for those type of designs, especially considering the size of the home. And I just do not feel that this would be in keeping to that community. Now, the applicant has the discretion to do anything. You can present and continue to move forward and try to bring other reasonable defenses to continue to move forward, but as of right now, you don't have the votes to move forward with the application as submitted.
What does the board consider reasonable in terms of a design? If this design meets the board's criteria, what else would be considered reasonable?
Where it's located. Isn't that what we're saying to you?
I said the pillars were fine. I particularly am not in favor of the driveway gates.
I could go with that.
Okay.
Anything further to the board? Any public comment on the application? All right, it's your discretion. How would you like this board to move forward? You still want to present more keep the application open? You want to adjourn?
No, I'm not going to adjourn at this point. I'm going to, I'll discuss with the client, and he can determine what his options are.
Very good. So,
he can move forward if he has to.
Wait, I'm sorry. You don't want to adjourn?
I do not want to adjourn.
Are you requesting this board to withdraw?
We can withdraw the current application.
So your request is to withdraw the application?
Yeah, this is our 5th meeting, Kurt, so it's...
Okay. A motion to approve applicant's request to withdraw the application for 128 West Prospect.
I make a motion that we
Thank you.
Thank you.
accept the applicant Ben Carr Building Corporation on Prospect Street request to withdraw their application for the gate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next application, please.
Next application, Evan and Julia Shure? Sure.
Evening, Anthony Vernon, Union Street. So we initially appeared before this board for this project back in September, and we were adjourned pending a historic structure report, which Mr. Studenroff has done. So we are here again. Just a few things. I think you should have copies of everything that I'm presenting tonight in your file, but just to kind of show you what you should be looking for. These are the photographs of the existing house. This is the front facade on Meeting House Lane. This is the side elevation where the existing driveway is. This is the other opposite side elevation, and this is the rear elevation. So you can see there's a 2-story house, an extensive second floor deck which wraps around 3 sides of the house, including the front. Then these are the street context views, which are really not very much to show, only because most of the hedges are so high one can barely see the houses, both the house in question and the neighboring houses above the hedges. So our proposal is to add, which you'll see on the elevations, which are A5 is the front elevation. You can see that the existing house is basically a gable facing the street with a little appendage off to the side. Our scheme is to basically mirror that gable on the other side of the front door with a gable same height, and in a small 1-story addition to the side of that. The materials, trim, windows, everything will match the existing. We think that I think the only visible part of the original fabric is the front door. The windows are all, at least the ones, the big ones on the street are all replacement windows.
Would you like to hear Zach's recommendations?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to hear Zach's presentation?
Oh, well, I rendered a report. This is not a contributing building.
That's all I need to know.
And that's important to keep in mind. There have been several prior additions to what appeared to be the original dwelling, which were not particularly sensitive to it. And I believe that at least one large section of that to the west is being proposed for removal in conjunction with this. And I think from a design standpoint, this is a big improvement to the house. And that section to the west, it actually drops down. I think that's important too, so that it doesn't just mirror the house and continue it and make it look unnecessarily large. I think that was an important decision to drop that roof line down, mirroring the gable facing the street, but kind of containing the massing or the impression of that toward the street. So I think it's a successful design from my perspective.
Most of the addition is at the rear of the property?
I'm sorry?
Most of the addition is at the rear of the property?
It is to the rear and to the side. So the existing facade is approximately 36 feet wide, and we're adding 25 feet to that width. Although actually, as Zach mentioned, part of actually the existing facade's a little bit wider. We're removing about 7 feet of that and then adding on from that point. We're also, I think I should just mention, we are moving the driveway from one side of the house to the other side of the house.
Jeff, any comments?
No, I think the additions are within keeping of the neighborhood.
Christine?
No.
Susan?
Seems okay for me.
Brian?
No, I'm fine with it.
Any public comment on the application? No objection of the board. Seems to be in keeping. Most of the additions at the rear of the property, and therefore I'm sure once complete would actually look like it always existed. Motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve the application on Meeting House Lane for Evan and Julia Scher.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Next application, please.
Next application is J&J Realty of Southampton.
Victor Cuneo, architect, for the owner.
Oh, no.
We took the comments from last meeting, and I think you can see we made some pretty significant changes from the last design. What we did is we stepped in the second floor walls from the previous design, giving us a full 8-foot wall instead of the 6-foot walls we had, which kind of created that large roof look. We had one massive roof. So by doing that, we were able to create a hip roof in the front and then a separate hip roof element in the back. We stepped in the rear part of the house even more on the second floor. We took off the arch, the eyebrow dormer on the top. We took out the arch over the front door, put a simple hip porch roof. We expanded the front porch to 6 feet, so it's a real front porch. Of course, no more chimney shingles. It's a used brick, like a whitewash brick for the chimney now. We even went ahead and took off the corner boards. We now have the woven shingles, which is similar to the neighborhood. And we kind of picture framed the windows. Instead of having the cornice, we put a frieze board, put the windows up to it with a simple framing, simple casing, to look again like the rest of the houses in the neighborhood.
Yeah. This was changed.
Yeah.
These were brought up. The turns were let go. Brought up. You reduced the front gables on the sides.
Yeah, that's much better.
Makes the windows not so elongated as in it.
And the porch looks more like a porch.
Porch is oval, so it's cut off.
We also changed the columns. We had some panels in the columns. We took those off. Again, it's a simplified. We simplified everything to look more like the neighborhood.
Do you have a second rendering?
Yes. Yeah.
And the plans that represent that were dated and received on the 19th?
Yes. That shows the change in the...
That's it. Very good. Board members, any questions?
No, better.
Much improved.
Much better.
Jeff?
No, it's an improvement from the last design.
Thank you.
Any public comment on the application?
Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the application of J&J Realty of Southampton on Pelletreau Street.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Did they show the pool cabana? Wait a minute.
We did that last time, we didn't have an issue.
Oh, okay. It's not on there.
Just the front elevation of the problems.
Here. Some more.
Next application.
Next application's Ryan Mollett, 91 Lewis Street.
Good evening. Jose Jimenez for Arthur Fraser, architect and planner. We're proposing a rear addition, a small addition to the back of the house. Since the last meeting, we became aware that the original house, which is this portion, it was built in 1916, which is historic. Then in 2003, another addition to the house was built. And what we're proposing is it's an addition to the back, which is basically it's going to be a family room with a covered porch in a second floor for a master suite, master bedroom. The addition is proposed to be set back from the rear portion of the house, so it's not going to be visible from the street. If you go to page A4, you'll see the existing north elevation.
Pick that up so the camera can pick up what you're looking at, please. Allow the camera to zoom in on that. A4?
Yeah. If you go to A4, you'll see the existing north and the proposed north, which shows the rear addition. The west, the existing west, which is the back, and the proposed addition, which is a gambrel addition to the back of the house, just like the rest of the house. And if you go to A5, on the south elevation, there's currently a chimney that sticks above the roof of this existing gambrel. The chimney is going to be demo, and it's going to be rebuilt on the back. And it's going to have pretty much the same relationship that it currently has. If you go to the front, which is the east and the proposed east, all you're going to see is the 3 feet of the chimney sticking above the roof line. But the front will remain the same. And the changes to the interior layout of the house, but all the windows are going to remain. All the existing windows are going to stay in place. Nothing's going to be changed. Jose Jimenez, J-I-M-E-N-Z.
So what you have shaded is existing. What you have little light with regards to the roof, that's what you're proposing, correct? And the total square footage that you're proposing?
Total square footage, 876 square feet. No, hold on a second. No, I'm sorry, 470 square feet, including the porch, including the covered porch.
How much?
470. Well, proposed addition.
That's the footprint.
No, that's the footprint.
Correct. This is what's proposed.
Right, I know, in the back.
The pictures kill me.
That's the back.
The code, yeah.
Back elevation.
Did you get the figures?
I don't seem to have those numbers with me.
You have better eyes than I do. While you're looking for that, any other questions?
I'd like to hear exact.
This has changed a bit since it was, as I'm remembering, a garage.
Well, oh, yes, correct. The garage was removed from the application, from the program. Yeah, in the front of the house. So
That's why I'm trying to see where they are. What, I'm a little confused by something. Existing house. It says, oh, I misread. Proposed second floor, but then it says family room with bedroom above, but that's contained within the 2 floors.
Correct.
Gotcha. Not reading. You know, for me, the challenge was this was a very modest house to begin with.
Right.
And it was substantially increased in size. And so, and now this is sort of stage 2 of that. And the additive impact is still with reference to the original modest house, which if all of this were proposed as one piece, I think would have presented a big challenge in terms of the scale of what's being proposed to the existing, et cetera. Because remember, this is not in the historic district. This is listed on the National Register. This is in the Lewis Street expansion area, and it's a contributing resource in that area. So I understand that this isn't being brought to you as one project, but in fact, the additive impact is to end up with a structure which is virtually 4 times the size of the original. So that's what results from this. You know, I think any project, if it comes in more than one stage, it kind of misrepresents. This was not the intention. This is a separate owner. This is several years have gone by, so it's not the same owner. And they're dealing with an existing house, and now they're coming in to enlarge it. But historically, the bigger picture is that you're ending up with a house which is more than 3 times the size of the original, by my rough calculations. I think by stepping that addition in, which it wasn't before.
It wasn't before,
also wider.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So I think a sincere effort has been made to minimize the impact of that by removing that garage idea entirely, and then to step that back addition in on both sides so that it will be difficult to see. It won't be entirely out of sight, but it'll be less of an impact on the street. Challenge.
So your report that you wrote was for a previous design?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
The garage was still there, infilling the front facade.
I see.
Bringing that to a total straight across, including the garage. And the back extension was larger, as I recall.
Correct, much larger. Yeah.
I mean, this is probably half in terms of maybe enclosed living space. I'm just guessing that what you're proposing now is about half of what you were proposing before. That'd be a rough.
Correct.
Because there was living space above the garage, all of which is now gone.
Yeah.
And that had a major negative sort of visual, facing the street. And then that back extension is also, it appears to be considerably smaller. So I think this is a much restrained version of that. And And, you know, architecturally, I think what you're proposing is more in keeping with the original house than the
first edition.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because that's a very awkward,
Bad gambrel.
very awkward stretch there, you know. But that's what exists. That's not his responsibility. So.
Right.
In a way, this almost tones that down.
Yeah. No, I was.
Brian, anything further?
No, I think architecturally, I think it's very successful.
Okay.
It's the impact on the street is nothing, really.
Christine?
It's definitely better.
Susan?
I agree.
Jeff?
Same here.
I'm looking at the two surveys, and it's night and day. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. When you look at the two, and you compare what you had in terms of overall additions and what you're proposing, you reduce it pretty much by, if not half, as close to half. I'm in favor of any reduction that will help out the streetscapes a little bit better. Okay. Any public comment on the application before we move forward? Anything further from the board? All right. It doesn't seem there's any opposition on the board. Therefore, we will proceed for a motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve the application of Ryan Mullet on Lewis Street.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Really? I'm hoping that you still have the baby sets from last week because I had printer malfunction, or from last month. Lisa Saloga, architect for Susan Zakalak.
Wait. We didn't call your application?
Oh.
We have to call it. Good time.
Way ahead of my time.
All right. Next application, please.
Next application, Susan Zakalak, 75 Rose Street.
Bless you. Okay.
We were here last time discussing Susan Zakalak's proposed addition onto an existing 2.5-story residence. The addition is basically, or the project is basically to remove a 1-story addition on a 1-story portion on the back of the house and extend the main gable and create a cross gable to the south, similar to the cross gable that exists on the north. I think that the primary conversation was to have Zach do his report at the last meeting.
Is there something in the file?
There is. Do you want it?
Yeah, there is.
Do you want me to read it?
They were near each other, those houses.
Yeah,
Remember that?
It's like,
You liked it.
yeah. Well, it's easier. They're right next door to each other. So I'll paraphrase. What do we have here? Well, I just remember visiting a house. I don't think that this is an inappropriate, let me put it in the positive, I feel that this is an appropriate expansion of the house. I think it's not, it doesn't make a major impact from the street. And I don't think it's aesthetically challenging. I think that was my conclusion. Remember, this is a contributing resource in the National Register District, but not in the local village district.
As such, the additions that are being done are within keeping with the overall design. Following Zach's, we had Zach go and do a report. It is a contributing structure in one of the national registries. Therefore, we wanted to have him, just on record, to indicate what the nature of the existing, and therefore the nature of the additions being in keeping, finds it to be more in keeping, and not that it would detract from any of the existing historic significance or its architectural features. In doing so, I don't have any further issues with the additions. Right? Christine?
No.
Jeff?
Nope, you said
Susan?
it well.
No.
Any public comment on the application? All right. Motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve the application of Susan Zakluk on 75 Lewis Street.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Next application.
Next application, Hampton's Real Property, 17 Squabble Lake.
Good evening. My name is Brian Brown. I'm the architect for the client. This is the first time you guys have seen this application. My client asked me to propose to you a building of a small security guard shed on the property.
Sorry? What are you proposing?
A security guard shed.
Okay.
So the application is for a security guard shed. Have you seen the application?
Yes.
Okay. So my client is asking for you guys to approve the location. We tried to satisfy the client's need for wanting to have somebody to watch the public easement, which is right along the property line, which is that the neighborhood has access to the beach along that property line, and he has significant security issues. So he'd like to have a small building built next to his stone front gate, and it would be hidden very, very significantly behind the trees in the right in front of this, next to the existing gate. The size of it's 105 square feet, and it's 8 foot 10 inches by 12 feet and 13 feet high. The style of the gate would be shingle style with the green trim and slate roof to match the house, and it's meant to have a bathroom and to house a security guard. That's pretty much it.
The gate, this is an application for the house and the gate.
Correct.
Right. And the gate, Curtis, you may want to...
Yeah, I'm going to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Is it there already?
Yeah, and it was there when I think they got approval for or I was told that the gate was built and they got a C of O to move in, and the gate was constructed.
The approval was never given for the gate.
Yeah.
So we're going to start there first. Unfortunately, we have to look at the gate as if it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So that we are consistent in our review, we're looking at the gate for its for purposes of it fitting in, tying in, and being in keeping to the community. We have been consistent in making sure that our driveway gates are transparent, that there's a level of transparency because we don't want a stockade view. I understand, based on the fact that you're creating not only proposing the gate, but also security, that there's a certain amount of security you want, and therefore creating that bunker. But that's not something that this board has approved in the past. We desire, we request, and we've been consistent to make sure that the driveway gates have that transparency so that our street space don't look like, we want to have a community of inclusion, not exclusion. And having a stockade fence at times has that view of exclusion. So I would not be in favor, even though it's built, going under the assumption that it doesn't. And I would not approve this gate anywhere in the village of Southampton. In terms of the stand, I have no issue. It's an accessory structure. It's modest. That's what they wish to do, and have it tucked back where there's no impact, no view. I have no concerns with regards to the accessory structure. But the driveway gate is not one that I would approve. Brian?
This shed, does that meet the setback for accessory structures?
No, and zoning, we went in front of zoning a month ago, and they did not have an issue with it.
Did you get an approval?
I believe we have. We haven't heard. They did not. None of the board members had objected to it when I left the meeting.
Well, there's not having objection, and then there's an approval.
Correct. I don't know.
We'll probably get it at the next meeting.
Right.
Then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the shed's kind of cute. But I don't have a problem with it.
The shed? Yeah, the shed. What about the gate?
Oh, the gate. No.
Yeah.
No.
Pristine.
And it has a name on it. You know. Ocean view.
Well, if there's no views.
No,
in the house.
It looks like a fort. Is anybody going to be in that shed, or is that just a
Yeah.
shed?
It's a bathroom, so someone's going to be there.
That's nice.
We used to call them privies.
Did you say prisons?
Movies.
Prisons. What's your head going with that one?
The shed is okay, the gate has to go.
Susan?
I think the shed, the guardhouse, I agree, the gate. I was told that somewhere that the gate had been approved, but it hasn't, so I'm not in favor of the gate.
Jeff?
The gate with the guardhouse is the total antithesis of what this board has been pursuing in terms of its approval of gates. It's very much of a bunker type of scene. The other thing, you mentioned that there's a walkway. My experience with trying to go down Squabble Lane during the summer on a bike is that I was stopped before I could even get down that street. So I don't know who's accessing the beach other than your client's neighbors. I could be totally wrong on that, but...
Well, it's a public right-of-way easement.
Well, it's a public right-of-way.
Entire public?
I think it's...
No, it's not public.
For the
It's a
neighborhood.
private right-of-way
Yeah.
for the people who live in that community.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. So
But they
yeah.
don't all live behind a gate, so they have...
Right. So putting all that together, I mean, the gate's a non-starter for me. The gate and the guardhouse is just over-the-top non-starter.
Okay.
So we would be in favor of your guardhouse, but you would not get an approval with the gate as proposed.
Okay.
I don't know. You would have to mention that back to your applicant. I don't know if you want to keep the application open so you can discuss that with him or her.
Okay.
What basically that would mean is we would not have an approval, and therefore you would not have a C of O for the gate.
I see. So they're not separate. They're not treated separately.
But you have one application. You have one application for both.
Okay. Okay.
Any public comment on the application?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Would I have to come back with plans to redesign the gate in order for the other to be approved?
Correct.
Are you familiar with the board's view at gates in terms of transparency?
I've read the documents that you have available. Sure. I mean, they're very clear.
If you go with 50%, you can't go wrong.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Nothing further from the public, nothing further from the board. So you are going to come back before the board with new designs?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay, but you want to adjourn so you can prepare yourself, or at least prepare your applicant, correct?
Yes.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until our next meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the applicant Hampton's Real Property LLC on Squabble Lane request to adjourn to our next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
Old Town SH Associates for 7 Old Town Lane.
The putting green. The bowling.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. George Citarella, representing Old Town Southampton Associates. I'm here for the gates at lot number 6 and lot number 7 at Old Town.
Okay, we'll start with 7 first. Let's just
Number 7 first?
Okay, so we'll do with 7 first.
So this is the site plan for lot number 7, which is a
You
4
probably would want to lay that down so the camera can get it. There you go.
There are 2 sets of gates?
Yes. And this is the gates for lot number 7.
Is that 7?
Yes. They all meet the height requirements, the width requirements, and the setback from the edge of the pavement.
Do you know what the percentage of transparency is with the
I
opening?
wouldn't have the exact, but it looks like it's either 50% or more.
Close. Yeah, it's close.
Yes.
Just for the record, you don't know.
I like it.
It's unique. Gates are it. No lanterns, no above the pillars, nothing, no lanterns, nothing?
No.
Gates are made out of, the pillars are wood?
Wood?
Okay, gates are wood as well? Painted wood?
Yes.
I have no issues. Christine?
No, I think they're great.
Jeff?
The gates don't face Wickapod, they're
No,
just on
they
Old Town.
face Old Town,
Right.
Old Town Lane.
No, I'm fine.
Susan?
Fine with me.
Fine.
Grand gates for a grand house.
It's definitely a grand house, yes. Is there any public comment on the application?
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the Old Town SH Associates LLC gates for number 7 Old Town Lane.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And number 8.
6.
6, right, I'm sorry.
6.
Thank you very much. George Citarella, Old Town, Southtown Associates for lot number 6 in Old Town for 2 sets of driveway gates. And let me just flip this side. This is the site plan for lot number 6, 2 set of gates, and this is the gates.
So one verting up, the other one's verting down.
right. Let's see through that one.
Just flip-flopped.
Yes.
Okay. So in other words, if we like one, we have to like the other.
I like this one.
Actually, I like this one better.
Yeah.
Brian, any questions?
No.
Jeff?
Yeah, no, and this one is a little less heavy than the previous one, so.
Right.
Susan?
I like that one better, but yes. it's
Christine?
I think it's great.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve Old Town's SH Associates LLC, the gates at 6 Old Town Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Fine.
Aye. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Affidavits of
In the bathroom.
Like he told me.
And then the middle light goes on for one.
Next application, please.
Next application is Allie Tamson, Meeting House Lane.
I think you have surveys, I'm not sure. And some additional pictures.
As you're handing us now, Matt, all plans are in file right now. There have been no changes, no difference. Just smaller scale, correct?
Correct. The only change from the original application was we had an accessory separate car garage, a one-car garage, which we eliminated.
Okay. You stated your name for
present the application.
Okay.
This is a new house on a vacant lot on 111 Bailey Road, the edge of the village, open farm field, and two-story residence with a finished basement, board and batten siding, and clapboard siding, all white with black windows. It's made up of a bunch of gables for the most part. There's one small wraparound area on the side that's a hip, one-story hip.
You say black windows?
Black windows, yes.
So you have the wood, you have the cedar finish front porch.
Correct.
You have the same detail around the front doorway.
Correct.
You have the cedar roof.
Yes.
White vertical clapboard. And
Horizontal clapboard.
Horizontal, I'm sorry. And then
vertical
you have
board
black
and batten
windows.
and black windows.
Vertical and horizontal.
I'm sorry, vertical and horizontal.
Vertical board and batten and horizontal clapboard. Clapboard would always be, of course, horizontal. Seems to be a popular trend these days is white houses with black windows. We're starting to see them all over the place.
Survey, where is it?
Survey's in here. Here you go.
Here is the site plan. There was a requirement in the code, as you probably know better than me, to block the parking. So we've called out arborvitaes at the street. Other than that, we don't have a landscape plan up to this point.
Okay.
Is that chimney code? You see the rear? You see it?
It looks like it's below the roof line.
The code in terms of the minimum distance from the roof in order to conform?
I know.
That has nothing to do with it. Yeah.
That helps.
Well, which is it?
No, this is just a perspective. Yeah, that's the elevation. It's so much better when you see it 3D or perspective.
Jeff, what are your comments?
It's an intriguing house. It's the difficulty with that street is there are a collection of houses. There are three little cute.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah, they're cute. They are. I love them. And so you've got those. Why are those?
Those are his.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Force house.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. They are as cute as can be.
Thank you.
And
there you go.
And yet at the far end, the dead end of Bailey, there's a contemporary house, and then there's some old little, probably farmhand houses and cottages. So it's a hard one.
It's a mishmash.
I could see this house on a bigger piece of property than that lot, and I know that lot is big for that street.
Yes.
But this is a barn-like house that, boy, it would look great on 4 acres of land, but it's not. So I'm a little bit betwixt and between. So I'd like to hear the comments from the other folks.
I looked at that.
Yeah, there you go. Brian?
I mean, it's a contemporary farmhouse, stark white, nice and clean. Again, the issue is, does it fit in on that street, and what does fit in on that street?
Yeah. It's a little bit of everything.
Well, it's the beginning of the street, right?
Right. No, it's way towards the back.
It's about 2/3 of the way down.
It's next to...
and the houses to the left and the right are not particularly artistic.
Is there any public comment? Okay.
If you're going to do a house like this in the village, I think that is a good place to do it.
Well, I guess I'm not reading.
The fact that there's no public comment, one of which I know if there's an issue of really opposition, they probably would be here. I don't have any issue with the actual design of the house. I'm wondering how it's going to look with all of the pretty much appalling details. So you have cedar to black to white. It's just so many different.
We have the cedar roof.
Yeah.
And the little bit of cedar trim around the entry. Other than that, the rest of the house is white. And then the black windows aren't like 8/8. They're just 2/2. So it's not a huge amount of gritty. It's not a gritty black thing. It's just a delicate black line. It's a request of the client. Yeah.
No opposition of the board? No issues? No concerns? Susan?
I have trouble with the horizontal and the vertical siding, along with the black windows. It just doesn't work for me. I find it to be stark, but not handsome, I guess is what I think. And I don't know really what to tell you other than that.
Everybody's into I don't know.
You know, it's my other word.
But you're not handsome. It's the house.
I've been called that before, stark and not handsome.
The vertical and then the horizontal.
It's not really unique.
I'm telling you, it's not really going to play.
Yeah, and I think it adds probably a certain amount of depth or
interest.
Yeah, interest to it, because if it was all vertical, it would look like a barn.
It would look strictly like a barn.
I think it gives a break.
Well, I'd go for the horizontal if I were doing it, because it makes it look so. These look so tall. All right. Well, obviously, I'm in
you have
the
3
minority.
votes.
You have 4.
You have 4.
Okay.
So, any public comment? All right. Motion to approve.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the application at 111 Bailey Road, LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
I feel privileged to have gotten through in one meeting. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. This belongs to you guys. I did not bring it. So. Oh, okay. Not stamped.
There is one in the file.
You have one? With many.
We already started.
Happy to have it. Congratulations. Thank you.
And our last official application for this evening.
Richard and Amy Miller.
I'll be right back.
Okay. You have small sets?
We do have small sets. And the affidavits as well. Because there's additional information in here about materials. Good evening. My name is Glenn Cordova. I'm from Blaise McCoy Architecture, representing Richard and Amy Miller from 81 Downs Path. What we are proposing today is a 2-story structure composed of primarily stucco, a kind of an off-white stucco, as well as Alaskan yellow cedar for kind of feature walls, which we would let just naturally weather and silver out. The house is 25 feet 4 inches tall. It sits about 93 feet from the street. We are maintaining the existing hedge line across the street along the curbside. We do have a landscape plan in there as well. We are also proposing to move the curb cut a little bit further to the west of the property, so that way when you enter the property and you see through the gates, you're really seeing just greenery and not the house itself.
Okay. Are there many contemporary homes downtown?
Actually, the one that's on the site is contemporary.
And we had done that actually. It was completed in 2014 at 211 Downs Path.
Well, I mean, you look through the fence. Okay. But it's a shingled, the cedar's contemporary. Cedar or shingled?
The one that we did was white stucco.
Oh, okay, but the one that's on the property.
Oh, the one that's on the property is brown.
Brown.
Yes, it's like a 1980s contemporary.
Yeah.
It's kind of run down. There should be an image in there as well.
see that? Black, white, and cedar. Black, white, and cedar.
Yeah,
I guess that's the design. Huh?
Good thing.
Yeah.
I like this one.
It's a beautiful home. It's just question just the. I know that there's a contemporary home there now, but it's probably an older.
Wow.
I just question its ability really to be the first of its kind in this community.
Well, again, we did finish a project at 211 Downs Path on 2014. It was a contemporary hybrid of sorts. It did have a pitched roof, but it had a significant flat roof as well. We added gates in late 2014. And the consensus of the board at the time was that Downs Path is kind of a mixture. It's very eclectic.
Yeah.
Total lot size.
It's an acre and a half.
Neighbor.
Sorry?
It's 1.5 acres.
So the parcel itself, you're really only going to see a portion of it because it's pretty.
Yeah. It's a very unique entry to the site too, because it's on that.
It's on an angle.
It's on an angle, so you really don't see it at all from the street side.
Brian, you have any comments?
It's beautiful. Really beautiful.
Jeff?
I think the house works on the site.
Yeah.
Christine?
I think it's beautiful. And I love the pale oak color. That's one of my favorite colors.
Susan?
I like it.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the application of Richard and Amy Miller at 81 Downs Path.
Great. Thank you very much.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay. Now submit.
Concludes our the actual formal agenda. We do have a discussion application for. I'm sorry. Discussion for 101 and 109 Hill Street.
Go in the back.
I would say for the applicant, because that's normally how I start, but we don't have an application here. I think that highlights the purpose, and I think we need to make clear what you're considering tonight. We are here as part of the SECRA process for the conversion of this property. We're going from the Village Latch, which is an inn, and we're looking to have a multifamily use there. That application is currently before the Zoning Board of Appeals. They have referred it to the Planning Board to perform SECRA. We've appeared before the Planning Board and have started that process. So they have designated themselves as lead agency. They did they required us to do a DEIS. They had a scoping session for all the items that need to be studied under the SECRA process. And they have referred this to you as an involved agency. As an involved agency, you will have an opportunity to see this application at a public hearing in its final form. It's not in final form because we're going through the SECRA process, and there's often many changes during that process. So this, I want to say you get another bite at the apple, but again, this isn't really a bite at the apple. I think it's an unusual sort of thing for this board to see, to be an involved agency during a SECRA hearing. And the reason why you are involved is, again, you have discretionary decision-making powers as this application will come back to you after SECRA. We are in a historic district. That's why it was designated as a Type 1. It's why we're having to go through this process, and you are the historic board. Our point of being here tonight is to introduce to you the background of the property first, and secondly, what it is that we're doing as part of this application. I think it's important that you get the full flavor without getting a big binder referral that has, all these papers and maps and not understanding fully the context in which we do it and how we're treating the two, significantly historic buildings on this property. What you will take from tonight, and if you need us to come back in the future to answer questions, and we're certainly able to answer questions tonight, but I suspect that when you get it, you may have more questions, and we'll come back and try and answer them, is you're going to make a comment to the planning board as part of SECRE. You're not going to make a decision on what we're presenting, but you're going to respond to their request for a referral. Or you may not. You can choose not to comment. I suspect that as the historic board, you'll want to comment, but you have the opportunity not to. So I'm going to ask C. Mac Sammy, our architect, to come up, and he's going to give you a brief history of the property and then show you what our intent is with the two main historic buildings.
Specifically, you're asking that this board reflect on, make a comment to planning as it refers to our position as historic consultant for the community. I'm sorry, for Historic Preservation Board as it relates to your application and its purpose for looking at it for the historic integrity?
Right. I'm not asking you to comment.
Okay.
That will be your decision when the time comes. But what we're trying to do is give you a flavor of what's going on, because you're going to get a referral from the planning board. It's going to be this big binder, and it's going to, look intimidating. These things always do. But what I think you really need to look at is what are our plans with those two buildings. So instead of you trying to figure it out on your own, we wanted to come here in advance, show you what you're doing, and then you'll have, when you review that document, you'll understand what it is. You'll have the background from us, what has happened.
Very good.
And then you'll choose whether you want to respond or not. I think it's appropriate to bring Zach into the analysis here, and I think we need to do that early. So that would be your charge, if you will.
Good evening, board members. CMX Sami, I'm representing the Beechwood organization. As Mr. Gilmartin mentioned tonight, I'm going to give you a little bit of background information on the site, on the property, on the two historic buildings on the site. As I said, and as Mr. Gilmartin mentioned, this is not a formal application to the ARB as of yet. We are going to come back with a full application to the ARB encompassing the whole proposal down the line when we go through the zoning board and the planning board. At this point, you have an option to make any comments regarding the two historic buildings on the site to the other boards if need be. I have 5 packages for each one of the board members in there. They have a clip on it, a black clip on it. I don't know if you have it. There we go. If you could each one have.
Another.
Yeah, I can
think this morning.
Yeah.
No,
that's it.
There should be one more. Nope.
Yeah, we'll share. We're friends.
Okay. So in this package, you have a number of various documents which I'm going to walk you through it. The first document that you have there up front is his structures inventory and existing condition report prepared by my office. Yes. This report was prepared by my office and Zach Studenbrock at the time when the property was owned by the previous owners, Mr. and Mrs. White. At that point, they were in front of the planning board requesting a change of zone, and we prepared this report for the planning board at the time. Basically, it enumerates the various structures on the property, history of the property. This was done back in 2014, and I'm going to walk you through some of the key items in this report, and of course you're privy to read the whole thing. The general remarks basically state that the Village Latch is a complex number 101 and 109 Hill Street in Southampton, comprising 9 buildings on 2 contiguous parcels, measuring about 5 acres, the totality of them, a 4.5 acre on one and a 0.75 acres the other one. Both properties are situated within the Southampton Village Historic District, and the 2 largest buildings on this property are residential structures at the time when they were built, and then converted later on to hotel use, which was part of the Irving Hotel across the street, which was demolished later on, and a condominium complex built there. The site is exposure on Hill Street of 264 linear feet, depth of 750 feet, so it's a very narrow, long lot. And the 2 buildings that basically face the Hill Street on the southern portion of this lot are the ones that are designated historic. One is the Village Latch, and the other one is the Terry Cottage. And we have descriptions of all 9 structures in this report, but I'm going to focus on the 2 buildings that are facing Hill Street. A little also history on Hill Street. I don't know if you're interested or not. I can read that. Hill Street, an east-west thoroughfare that forms the western gateway to Southampton Village, is of very early origin, having served as a section of the old Montauk Highway. The concentration of historical architectural resources on Hill Street is one of the greatest in Southampton Village Historic District. Typical of village settlement patterns, houses on Hill Street are spaced relatively near each other on small residential lots. The largest of the 9 buildings on the present day, the Village Latch property and the Terry Cottage, are examples of this development pattern. Prior historic inventory dates the Village Latch in to early 20th century, and based on various maps, we can basically come down to basically a date of 1915 for the Village Latch building. This was an inn basically that was part of the Irving House, which was across the street. And it was operated by Mr. Terry, son of Mr. Irving. And the Terry Cottage was the residence of the owner, and it was moved, the frontal portion or southern portion of it was moved to that site and added to an existing building on that site. The original portion of it, which is a Victorian-style architecture in the back.
When was that moved?
Pardon me?
When was that moved?
That was moved, let me see. I'm going to go in more detail for each one of them, and I'll tell you. But the Terry Cottage was... the Victorian portion of it, which is the back portion of it, was built back in 1870. And sometime in the 1925 to 35 period, the front portion was moved to the site and added to that.
Well, what exactly would the planning be asking of us?
So at this point, what we're asking you is just to familiarize yourself with the property, familiarize yourself with the 2 historic buildings that are reported basically in this inventory structure, I have also submitted plans as to what we are going to be doing with these two historic buildings, which is basically restoring and preserving and restoring these buildings. I can walk you through some of the elements of this preservation. And,
at this point, what exactly, do you know what the planning department would actually be asking? Because we can go through
the
layers.
The planning board has not asked anything from the architectural
we're just in anticipation of the planning coming up with a summation or I'm sorry, a summary, which they want either commentary from this board to respond to?
We are bringing this to your attention that if the architectural board has any input to give to the planning board, that at this point, when the planning board is reviewing this project, that this opportunity will be given to the architectural board.
Well, we're trying to help you. So what can we do to get you to move forward on your project? So what exactly?
You're an involved agency, so you comment during secret or not if you don't want to. What CMAC, I think the important part of the presentation is what are our plans with that, and he's going to run through that right now. And then you'll have the ability to comment to the planning board during the secret process.
Well, do you want to elicit our comments now? Or are we supposed to be mum?
No, well, certainly we take your comments now, but ultimately the comments aren't for us or the public, they're for the planning board during that process.
But I assume it would be useful for you to hear.
Absolutely, that's why we're here, right? But also to show you what we're doing so that you're educated on what's happening on the property and not trying to figure it out on your own.
Okay.
You should make the distinction between your informal or comments now, which are informal.
Right, exactly.
Well, that's not what you said, and comments. If you're going to comment, as Mr. Gilmartin is saying later on, you're going to do it officially as a board. This is merely informal response.
Yeah.
Sort of an educational, just to show you what we're doing.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the Village Latch building. This building, in your package, you have a set of existing drawings, elevations of the interior, of the exterior on south, north, east, west, and you have photographs of it. And you also have a package of what we're proposing to do with the building. In a nutshell, on the Village Latch, what we're proposing is, first of all, move it closer to the street in line with most of the other, 95% of the other buildings that are on Hill Street, in the proximity of 25 to 60. Right now, presently, this building is sitting at 130 feet back from the property. So we're shifting it, we're moving it forward by about 90 feet to lining it up, lining the porch portion of it up with the Terry Cottage, and in line with the various other historic buildings on Hill Street. Being that this was a hotel with 24 units in this hotel, it was divided up. A lot of the window arrangements are not original to this building. They were basically chopped up based on what the room layouts on the interior was. So we're going to be eliminating some of those windows, regulating the size and shape of these windows, but preserving the overall integrity of the original design, which is a 5-bay main structure, 2-story structure with 2 wings on either side. The 2 wings on either side, at one point on the first floor, were porches, covered porches that later on were enclosed into a building. Again, the windows on these are not in line with the overall vocabulary of the building. In the proposed design, we are regulating that in line with the original portion of the building, which you can see that in the proposed drawings. Both on the south side and east, west, and north elevations of the building. A lot of the small porches are being removed. On the west side, we're proposing a new porch. And also on the south, on Hill Street, we're proposing a porch. This porch, covered porch, even though it has a railing on the second floor, there are no doors to that second floor porch. It's just decorative railing. the three dormers are staying as is. On the wings, we're eliminating a lot of the ad hoc windows that were added, and again, we're regulating it to a 2-bay per wing, as your drawings depict. And on the east side, we're introducing a 3-bay garage on the ground level of the building.
So, CMAC, what are you doing to the building? Is it becoming condos?
It's going to be a condo, 3 units.
3 units, that's why there's 3 garages.
3 garages, 3 units, 3 separate entrances for each one of those units.
Okay.
One of the entrances would be on Hill Street, one would be on the east side, actually 2 would be on the east side, flanking either side of the garage.
Right, I see that.
In the rear of the property, which is the north elevation of it, there is a shed dormer existing right now, and above it is a very handsome gable roof. We're using the vocabulary of that gable roof and providing a drop gable roof in place of the shed dormer in the same vocabulary of the architecture, and scaling down the building on the north side, basically. As far as material, it's stained white shingles, wood windows with wood trim, painted wood trim, and presently we have asphalt shingles that's going to be converted to cedar shingles as a roof. The windows, again, as far as the divisions, 6/6 is typical of the building, and we're going to carry that throughout the building. On the Terry Cottage, the Terry Cottage will stay on the existing footprint where it is right now. Again, it has a 5-bay main portion in the front structure with 3 dormers above it. It had a wing on the east side as a porch that was enclosed at one point and then later on converted into a room. This is still going to be maintained as an enclosed porch, but again, based on the language of the windows, it's going to be defined more as an enclosed porch with windows all around it rather than private room. There's going to be 2 units in the Terry Cottage. The main entrance for one is on Hill Street, basically on the center bay of the main portion of the building. And the second one is on the west side, underneath a new porch that ties the various elements of the architecture of the existing building under this new porch. And also we're adding a small porch on the north side of the building. And again, we're eliminating a lot of the sheds, ad hoc decks and porches that were added onto this building for that 12-unit hotel that it was. And cleaning up the facades as far as the number of windows, reducing them, and bringing some order to it, symmetry to all those facades and elevations, which I think the drawings speak for themselves.
Eliminating all the shutters, too.
Yes. The shutters are on the Village Latch building, but yes, we are going to preserve the shutters too as well.
I'm sorry. You said they're out, but you just said you're going to preserve
The
them.
shutters we're gonna most probably maintain them. I mean, my drawings don't show them actually, but when we come back to you in more detail, I'll get into those details. At this point, basically, I'm addressing the permanent elements of the structure.
So you're maintaining, you're going to be refurbishing and cleaning up each one of the buildings. You're picking them up and moving them forward.
One of them is going to be moved forward. The Village Latch.
The other one, so the other one's not going to be moved at all. It's going to stay in line. So everything. What is the actual distance from the streetscape? From the actual.
The distance from the streetscape, I'll tell you right now. Just give me a moment. Okay. village latch at the moment is 130 feet back from the street, from the property line, if you may. We're moving it about approximately 90 feet to a 40 foot back from the street, which is in line with what the Terry Cottage is about. The Terry is about 35 feet back from the street.
How close are they going to be?
The same proximity as far as distance in relationship to one another. The moving of the building is going to be parallel movement. Straight up.
Right.
Correct.
What's the distance?
So the distance would be approximately 40 feet, 45 feet. Between them. And that's where the extended wings are closest to one another. The main portion of the building, which is elongated north-south axis, that's even further. That's basically about 100 linear feet away from one another.
Any other questions, Paul? No? Any questions? Zach, any comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we to comments or?
You could have comment now, or you could wait until there's a response. We can add response to it.
I may as well. You're here, and it's 10:30. We all want to go home. But my concern, I guess, it sort of addresses some of Susan's question about the distance between the houses. So, in addition to Harmony, as you're familiar with, is one of the charges of this board. The other has to do with open space and moving the house up as far as there's a lot of open space there now, and similar to the orchard to the to the west, which has a lot of open space. The two of them seem to fit very well together, and then they create a sense of openness. Moving the house up 90 feet will diminish that openness, and then the 40-foot difference, while it's parallel, will create two rather significant and large structures within relatively close proximity to one another. So that would be my concern, whether or not your plans could be adjusted so you don't have to move it and maintain the open space. That's something else. But my comment and my concern is, or my wish, is that that open space could be preserved.
2 points. One is that, again, the historic fabric, and if we're talking about Harmony of Hill Street, the open space is an anomaly on Hill Street. 95% of the properties on Hill Street.
It's there now.
Yes, it does exist.
So
correct. Yes, it does
now.
exist. However, Terry Cottage does not have an open space in front of it. If anything, Terry Cottage to the east of the village latch is sitting 35 feet away from it. Pretty much one of the closest, actually, distances to Hill Street if you want to look at the whole fabric of Hill Street. So the cottage that is closest to the Whitefield is actually does not have or entail this open space feel, if you want to say. And bringing the village latch more in line with the Terry Cottage would bring more of a continuity of fabric in that sense.
I disagree with that, quite honestly.
And one other point, as we approach the village, the density and urbanity of the village increases too. So this is again in line with approaching the village and approaching higher density in that sense towards the village, if you may.
Well, I have to go look at it, but your argument just now is one of the reasons that you have preserve historic sites is that it isn't like the increased density and urbanity because it wasn't there before. That the historic nature of the entire property has some integrity or because it's historical. I don't know. I have to go look at what it would look like.
You're entering into the business district. It's one parcel away from Southampton Inn, goes into more of the business district. So if there is a site that is and I'd like to take it all into consideration overall, that would be not only the moving forward, but there's obviously going to be mitigating screening, hedges, and so forth overall to a final and complete what the streetscape would be. But this is not a foreign readjustment or relocation of the structure, considering that it's transitioning into the village of Southampton, therefore also within a more business community overall. We're looking at this informally. We're looking at this not making a decision. We're looking at this subjectively, but at the same time, there's still more information that has to be presented to this board for us to make any type of final rendering or ruling or any decision. So this is just an educational portion of it process. Hopefully there's more information that's going to come out of this that will give us a better understanding and review of what we're looking at and how we proceed from here. Okay. Anything further? All right. Anything further from the applicants, semi-applicants?
If the board members want to come and visit the properties, we can certainly arrange for you to come on and look at the buildings. Just you can contact either myself or Mr. Benedict directly, and we'll be able to provide that.
Very good. Thank you. I think we will. Overall, thank you. That's not an open application, so therefore it doesn't need a ruling. So all we have are minutes, and the minutes that are from September 26th. All board members were present?
I wasn't.
Right. So all board members had the opportunity to review the minutes.
Yes.
Questions, comments, concerns, errors, or omissions?
No.
Motion to approve the minutes from September 26th.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 26th.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to close this evening's meeting of October 24th, 2016, of the meeting of the Architectural Board of Review and Historic Preservation.
I make a motion that we close this meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation on October 24th, 2016.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.